talk it over.
It's about that time, everyone. All right, I'm just pulling up the news stories. I hope you're all having a fantastic Wednesday. And we've got illustrious alumni Salty in the chat. Oh, wait, you know what I forgot to do? Dang it, forgot to bring up the chat. I had it just working on a side system. Where is it? Where is it? There it is. All right, now we're talking. All right, where is everything? I'm flailing. Been busy at work this week. It's only gonna get busier. I got new stuff dropped in my lap today. I don't even know if the stream's gonna work. Let's see. Hey, there we go. What's up, everybody? Yeah, I got new stuff dropped in my lap. That's right. Salty, I was asking everybody. I forgot what we were doing. Someone mentioned there was an update to Greyhack. Oh, that's loud. Somebody mentioned there was an update to Greyhack, and I was like, oh, cool. I've been meaning to check it out. With, you know, my obvious dope amounts of free time, which I don't have. And I was like, oh yeah, dude, that was fun when we played that with Salty to teach him like hacking 101. It was a lot of fun. All right. Let me finish pulling up the news stories here. We got some fun stuff happening. Let's see. Where's my mouse? There it is. Boop. Let me close that. Let's see. Google published some exploit code. There is more Linux exploits popping up by the day. 2 actively exploited Defender vulnerabilities. Ooh, what is this? Defender can auto-isolate stuff? I think we already looked at this. Yellow key. Yeah, I think we're behind on that one. That's fine. What else we got here? Claude Mythos finds 10,000 vulnerabilities? What? Sounds crazy. What else we got here? Damn, Interpol pulled off an operation with 201 arrests. Let's see what else we got here. So I'm testing out a new system where I have Harvey, one of my very, very beefy and well-tuned AI agents, going through and finding interesting stories for us. And it did, but it still needs more tweaking. It's put a lot of stuff in here that is not super interesting. See, Ghost CMS is getting compromised. Ooh, a new memory-only remote access Trojan in the works. Hey, Melly, by the way, thanks for the follow over on Kick. Welcome in. I hope you're having a fantastic Wednesday. I need to add, you know what, you just reminded me, Melly, I got to add in the alerts for the Kick side whenever they pop up in there. I will do that. Let's see. What else we got going on here? FBI warns about Kelly 365. Ooh, US has made a $2 billion quantum computing investment. Let's check that out. All right, let me see what else we've got coming up here in the dump.
Bullshit, I can't hear you. Sound off like you got a pair.
Ah, you're full of crap, Salty. I know you can hear me. Love you too, boo. Oh yeah, we're gonna lead off with that one right there. Uber's CEO says it's getting hard to justify their AI budgets. And actually, hold on. I'm gonna see if I can find a copy of this one real quick. I wonder if anybody archived this. Hang on. I'm not a robot. Stop asking me. Unfortunately, it looks like it probably didn't grab a copy because I think it would have brought it up immediately. Let me see if it's on archive. damn. This was a tweet from Intel Cyber Digest where they basically went through and doxed Nightmare Eclipse. I knew I should have saved a copy of it. Son of a biscuit. Oh well. But anyway, yes, guys, I hope you're all having a fantastic week so far. And for only being the second day, I feel like I've been running my ass off. So I just had a new project dropped on me that has to have like a rushed turnaround. And then I've got to go present it in person. So yeah, it's going to be a fun one. That's all right. I love pressure. I eat it for breakfast. Let's see. Well, let's go ahead and dive right in here. Oh, by the way, I'm working on a blog post. I'll link it once it's up. I'll throw it up in Discord, and I'll throw it up on Twitter too. But I've got 2 new tool releases coming out. One of them is the Mythic NCP server that we worked on stream, and the other one is a completely new one that I haven't really shown anybody yet. But it's going to be fun, and I'm hoping it's going to make some other Red Team operators' lives a lot easier. All right. Anywho, I want to kick it off with this one because this has got everybody like, oh, the bubble's popping. This is from Business Insider. Uber's COO says it's getting harder to justify the money spent on AI token maxing. Oh no, whoever could have predicted that? Well, I'll give you a hint. He's got 2 thumbs and a gorgeous beard. That's who. Top exec, a top Uber exec said AI is not giving the company bang for its buck. In rapid response interview released on Saturday, Uber's operations chief, Andrew McDonald, said it's becoming harder to justify AI costs within the company. So he said that Uber CTO Praveen Nepali Naga went viral after telling the information in an April interview that Uber had already blown through its Claude Code budget for 2026 in April. That means they just kind of, missed it by a smidgen, just a wee little bit. So the comment led to what he described as head-exploding moment, sparking discussion about AI token consumption within the company and its trade-offs it creates, such as on headcount. He said that based on talks with Uber's senior engineering leaders, he realized that higher token usage did not translate into proportional increases in useful customer features. No kidding. No kidding. So that link is not there, right? He said. I think maybe implicitly there is more that is getting shipped, but it's very hard to draw a line between one of those stats and, okay, now we're actually producing 25% more useful consumer features. He said the trade-off costs from AI are harder to justify because he can't draw a direct link. Earlier this month, CEO Dara Kavarkovshaga, I don't know how to say that, said in an earnings call that Uber was slowing hiring to counter its investment in AI. You're reaping what you sow. McDonald added that AI can seem free if you're just a user sitting there coming up with interesting use cases without paying for it, but ultimately the company foots the bill. While big tech is going hard on token maxing, there was your first mistake. Using AI as much as possible and evaluating employees by their AI usage, some companies are starting to go the other way. No kidding. You don't think. Duolingo, for instance, walked back its decision to include AI usage in performance reviews after employees asked whether they had to use AI for the sake of using it. It felt like, rather than being held accountable for the actual outcome, we're trying to push something that is in some cases just doesn't fit. Yeah, exactly. And that's what I was saying. It's like, hold on. As soon as you started having the token maxing Olympics happening with people burning through billions of tokens in a week or a day, I was like, yeah, that's what's going to happen. It's a ridiculous metric. It's like saying, hey, we're going to grade our coders on how many lines of code they put out. That's a shitty metric. Because if they could make just like really inefficient code to make it longer, so their lines of code metric looks better. That's not how you want to go incentivize them. All right, here's another fun one. Kash Patel's apparel website is reportedly hosting ClickFix malware, according to multiple visitors. I'm surprised at this for multiple reasons. The first one is, why the hell does Kash Patel have an apparel website? Bro, you ain't that famous. I mean, I don't know anybody's like, you're like, oh, hey, did you see that new Fire Cache drip? No, nobody's saying that. So a fake Cloudflare verification page tricking users into pasting OS-specific verification commands that execute malware. The MAC path fetches an info stealer targeting keychain, browser data, session tokens, and crypto wallets. I love this picture of him actually because he just looks so out of it. Like, I'm just here so I don't get fined. That's what this picture reminds me of. But yeah, so if you don't remember what ClickFix is, for anybody who's unfamiliar with it, ClickFix is usually it's a social engineering technique that tricks you into thinking you're blocked from a website, and it's like usually masquerading as like a CAPTCHA, right? Like, hey, Cloudflare is going to block you. By the way, you need to go copy this, open a command terminal, and paste it in here. So when you click copy, though, everybody assumes, oh, it's going to copy I am not a robot Cloudflare verification ID 605215. No. When they click copy, the JavaScript running in the background can just copy any text it wants to. So then you go paste it into your command line, and it's just like you have let somebody come and sit down and type whatever they want to on your terminal. So yeah, it's downloading malware and it's going to run it. Smooth. Oh wait, and here's a video of it actually running. So they're going to cache his site, which I had no idea this was like even a thing. And apparently they just opened it a whole bunch of times, I guess. Maybe they've randomized it where it's like, there we go. So it didn't fire on every single one. You see all the tabs they've got over here? It only fired on like a couple. But yeah, then it starts loading the ClickFix over here. So it's like, okay, cool. Cloudflare's going to verify you. I wish they'd actually show the payload that would show it from the copy in there. Hey, Chris, what's up, dude? What's smooth is Blaise Bits, blazing and bitsin' live. Let's go. Welcome in, dude. I hope you're having a wonderful week. You know what's funny is like, so most of the people here in the US had Monday off, right, for Memorial Day. And in theory, that makes the week shorter, but it always feels like the shorter weeks are busier than the longer weeks. It's kind of wild. That's the same video we already had. Boop, get rid of that. Hey, Clearbox, what's up, dude? I found a file called reagent old. In my recovery setup, it's full of GUIDs, blank paths, and cryptic schedule operations. Like Windows is planning a heist. PC works fine, recovery works fine. Do I need to fix anything, or is it just Windows being Windows? I'm not even sure about that file. Hang on one second. What's it called? Reagent old? Yeah, that's a pretty much generic recovery file in their Clearbox. You should be good. Windows has a ton of those like weird little one-off like backup configuration files. That's just one of them. So yeah, you can just probably ignore that. You'd probably be fine. I don't know if anybody who's backdooring stuff like that, especially considering I've never even heard of it in there. Hold on, didn't we cover this last week? Hang on, wait a second. Oh no, this came out the day after. Hate that when that happens. But check this out. Megalodon, mass GitHub repo backdooring via CI workflows. So on May 18th, an automated campaign codenamed Megalodon pushed 5,718 malicious commits and 5,561 GitHub repositories, or to 5,561 GitHub repositories in a 6-hour window, using throwaway accounts and forging author identities, like BuildBot, AutoCI, CIBot, PipelineBot. The attacker injected GitHub Actions workflows containing base64 encoded bash payloads that exfiltrated CI secrets, cloud credentials, SSH keys, OIDC tokens, and source code secrets to a C2 server. So the campaign deployed two payload variants. The mass variant which they called sysdiag, adds a new workflow trigger to every push and pull request, maximizing automated execution. And the targeted variant, which was optimized build, replaces the existing workflows with a workflow dispatch trigger, creating dormant backdoors that the worker can fire on demand via the GitHub API. Ooh. The NPM package of TileDesk server versions 2.18.6 through 2.18.12 carry the targeted variant propagated through to NPM through routine pushes by the legitimate maintainer from the compromised GitHub repository. Ooh, so they got popped and didn't even realize it, and we're just popping that stuff out onto NPM. RIP. Let's see here. So what all was impacted? Indicators of compromise. Okay. Let's see here. So SafeDep's Malicis. That's a terrible name. I just got to tell you. The engine flagged TileDesk server after detecting a base64 encoded bash payload inside a bundled GitHub Action workflow file. So, by the way, these GitHub Action workflow files. Here, actually, hang on. I can show you one real quick. Because, let's see. Now, let me just go to GitHub. Because I just got done making one for the Mythic MCP server. Mythic MCP. Here we go. Let me bring this up. All right. So over here, you have these GitHub workflows directories in here. And then in here, I built two of these to work for the Mythic MCP server. So there's one where it's a CI candidate. It just comes in and says, hey, by the way, if it's a push request, or if it's a code push to the master branch, then workflow dispatch, do all this stuff down here. So it's just like a little script that's happening in here. And so what they did is they went through and they tampered with this, and no idea what they put for this. Maybe he'll discuss it in the article. But it's basically like having, if you can tamper with this file, automated execution into the CI/CD framework, or into the CI/CD GitHub action runners. So if you've gotten into those, then you can steal keys out for any number of things. Some companies have these things go build and then automatically push over to like NPM, which means they've got to have some kind of a token to NPM in the CI/CD. And then once you're running in there, you can steal it right out. That's why I love targeting CI/CDs whenever I find them during internal pen tests. Let's see. So what else did they have going on here? So diffing the versions against everything else, basically only one file changed, which is a Docker community worker push latest YAML. So the original Docker build workflow was gone. In its place, a workflow named optimized build with a echo something base64d bash one-liner in here. So that basically is going to say, hey, they're taking this, they're piping it, they're going to dbase64 it, and then they're going to send it to bash. It's going to start executing the commands. So basically versions 2.18.6 through 2.18.12, which was published over a 3-day period, all carried that backdoor. And the same NPM account, El Johnny, published both the clean 2.18.5 and the compromised versions. So maybe that would probably clear that that's the one who got compromised. So the attacker never touched the NPM account. They compromised the GitHub repository. So the malicious commit landed on May 18th, and it was authored by BuildBot. With the message, CI add build optimization step, the author name and generic no reply email mimic automated CI commits. The GitHub API returns a null for both the author and the committer user fields, and no GitHub account is linked. Someone pushed the commit to master with no PR and no merge commit, compromising or using a compromised personal access token or deploy key. So basically they said they found somebody's elevated GitHub permissions or GitHub token, got it over there into, could push code directly to the main branch, their master branch, and then let it execute. And so searching for GitHub for other commits by that build system didn't basically revealed the larger campaign going on here. Boop. So searching GitHub for that returned 2,878 results. So a second email of CI-bot automated dev accounted for another 2,800. So all told, 5,700 commits landed on the same day, May 18th. It's a very, very busy bot. And it happened across about a 6-hour window. Let's see. So the attack rotated through 4 author names: BuildBot, AutoCI, CIBot, and PipelineBot, and 7 commit messages, all mimicking routine CI maintenance, like added optimization step, improve CI performance, sync CI configuration, stuff like that. So the attacker used a throwaway GitHub account with the random 8-character usernames to set git configs and forge author identities and push via a compromised personal access token. TileDesk alone was, he says TileDesk alone was hit across 9 different repositories that they control. Other targeted organizations included the Black Iron Project, Wise Community, and hundreds of other smaller repositories. See, this is it's a pretty chunky list there. It just keeps going. So the top projects that got hit were, WizNet IO library draw, which has about 800 stars. So these are actually called more kind of tinier repositories. And even at 800 stars, that's not all that big, but it did hit a wide breadth of things in here. It hit a wide swath of repositories. So the campaign deployed 2 distinct workflow variants. Mass scale variant used about 5,700 repositories, adds a new file called ci.yaml in there, and it named sysdiag with triggers on push to all branches and a pull request target. So that variant fires automatically on every push and pull request, basically maximizing the coverage in there. And if they wanted to, that means the attacker could go submit a pull request and then let it fire the workflow and then go delete the pull request and be done with it. I think you can delete the pull request. I don't know if you can just close them, but still, they could go fire it on command by just doing a pull request. Let's see. So the TileDesk variant, this is the second one. Replaced an existing workflow and renamed it as optimizing build, used another workflow dispatch, but both variants shared the same command and control server and the same Megalodon campaign identifier and the same exfiltration payload, but each commit got a unique session ID. Let's see. So for the triggers, we just kind of talked about this. The malicious code does not execute when someone installs the npm package. The payload lives inside a bundled GitHub action workflow file. So the original workflow built and pushed Docker images on pushes to the master branch. The attacker replaced it with this run right here. So this trigger switched to workflow dispatch, which is manual only. So it was, So on workflow dispatch, this one was on push or pull like this here. They changed it to here. So it had to be going through and manually triggered. I guess they were still expecting to have that personal access token hanging out in the background where they could just go fire it off whenever they wanted to. So why the workflow dispatch? Because the trigger change for on push to on workflow dispatch is a stealth choice. GitHub Actions evaluate the workflow file versions present in the commit being pushed. So when that commit landed on master, the workflow file already specified workflow dispatch, so the push did not trigger the payload. The GitHub Actions API confirms 0 workflow dispatch runs in there. And so the last run was a push event on May 4th before the compromise. That makes the backdoor basically dormant. It's hanging out there instead of being fired all the time. Hold on, I want to skip ahead a little bit. I want to see what was in the payload here. So the base64 blob decode to 111 lines of bash script and begins by configuring the C2 endpoint and a cleanup trap. So it gets our callback here. DID, which I'm guessing is probably like maybe an encryption key happening here. Don't know what plat is. And then we see trap. So a helper function called post handles the exfiltration, truncates files above 5 megabytes, and it posts them to a C2 with metadata headers and adds a random sleep value. Here we go. Yep, just using some good old basic curl right there. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So the script collects data in 5 phases. First, it does environment variables, looking at those. The second one is credential files, looking for like AWS creds, SSH keys, Docker configurations, NPM, GCP, GitHub CLI, Kubernetes, Vault, GitHub credentials, shell history, It's kind of funny that it's looking for shell history inside of a CI runner. I wonder if they didn't realize what they were asking for in there. I don't think that would be of any use. Anyways, that's just the second phase though. Third phase is cloud provider credentials. So looking for, again, stuff for AWS, GCP, all those good ones. Notice that Azure didn't really get much love in there. And then let's see, phase 4 was file and code scanning. So it searched the workplace directory and temp for configuration files like envs, credential JSON, service account JSONs, Docker composes, and exfiltrated each one. Nice. So then grep scans source code across 30 plus file extensions using regex that matches AWS access keys. Stripe, Razorpay, SendGrid, Mailgun. Here, see this? Where was that? Here. What this does. So let's see what they did here. So the payload uses set plus E to suppress errors, wraps the C2 curl calls in a or true command to prevent workflow failure on network errors, uses a temp directory with a cleanup trap, and adds random sleep between the exfiltration calls. Yeah, Cluebox, that's what it looked like. I've just never seen that trap command before. Interesting. I learned something new. Yeah, so you can set trap and tell it, hey, what to do here on a command exit. Huh. Learn something new every day. I could tell what it was saying, Cluebox, but it's the particulars of that trap command I've never seen before. Very interesting. So, yep, the supply chain attacks will continue until token hygiene improves. That's what's going to happen. Also part of this was Packagist supply chain attack infects 8 packages using GitHub-hosted Linux malware. Oh, there's just so much happening right here. So a new coordinated supply chain attack has impacted 8 packages on Packagist, including malicious code designed to run a Linux binary retrieved from a GitHub release URL. So although the affected packages were all Composer packages, the malicious code was not added to the Composer JSON, according to Socket. Instead, it was inserted into the package.json targeting projects that ship JavaScript build tooling alongside PHP code. It's always freaking Java. I'm not saying PyPy, I mean, we already saw PyPy could get popped too, but it's always Java. It's pretty much like that old saying. It's like, oh, hey, there was another supply chain attack. It wasn't Java. It was Java. You know, it's like, oh, it's not DNS. It was DNS. They mention anything else about this? Nah, I'm not going to go into that then. They basically found a lot of references to the payload. It was just serving it up from there, so not super interesting. But again, more of that. Now, this one was kind of interesting. Oh, no, we already talked about that one. I think we talked about that one last week. This one is really funny, though. This one, I think it actually happened last week. I just missed it. In a stunning display of stupid, secret CISA credentials found in a public GitHub repo. SSH keys, plaintext passwords, and other sensitive data have been up there since November of 2025. Security researcher Brian Krebs brings us the news. Hold on. Did Krebs actually cover this? Because if so, I just want to read what Krebs wrote. I'm surprised I missed this. Yeah, hold on. We'll just read what Krebs has to say about it. So until this past week, a contractor at the Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency, or CISA, maintained a public GitHub repository that exposed credentials to several highly privileged AWS GovCloud accounts and a large number of internal CISA systems. CISA systems. Security experts said the public archive included files detailing how CISA builds, tests, and deploys software internally, and that it represents one of the most egregious government data leaks in recent history. I don't know about that. I mean, there's been some pretty bad ones. Let's see. So on May 15th, Krebs heard from Guillaume Valador, A researcher at the security firm GitGuardian, or Validun's, that says it. Validun's company constantly scans public code repositories at GitHub and elsewhere for exposed secrets, automatically alerting the offending accounts. God, I can't talk tonight. Automatically alerting the offending accounts of any apparent sensitive data exposures. Validon said he reached out because the owner in this case wasn't responding and the information exposed was highly sensitive. The Secure Data Act? It sounds familiar. It sounds familiar, but honestly, I don't recall this information about it. So no, I'm going to say, like, I've heard of it, but I don't know any details about it. Yes, Agent 57. Salty is a legend. He's a beast. He's unstoppable. He's a juggernaut. All right, let's continue on with this one. Because even though I just finished my Jocko here. Not sponsored by Jocko yet. I was working very hard today, and it was very hot in the office. I'm already tired. Jocko, don't fail me now. All right, so this guy was maintaining this, and yes, that's right. Not sponsored by Jocko yet. Yet being the operative word. By the way, I have been getting back to exercising regularly. That's probably part of the reason why I'm tired right now, because I just started it last week, and last week was not a full week because I was at the board game convention with my buddy. It was like his one big thing he wanted to do for the year. Hey Zach, what's up, man? The Jocko approves. I hope so, man. So yes, I'm getting back after it. I did that today, and I'm trying to get back to doing it on the daily. Still working towards it. Yesterday, stuff happened. I wasn't able to work out, but I got it done day before, today. I'm going to keep after it. Yeah. It doesn't even take very long. It's just I was always concerned about how my back was going to hold up. But this is using a sprint bike that I've had for a couple years, and my back is healed up enough where it doesn't bother me to sit on the seat anymore. So, boom. Stream walking treadmill. So many of my coworkers have walking treadmills, and it's hilarious. Like, we get on a big team meeting, and like 5 of them will just be sitting there, and you just know they're on their treadmill right there. Although I'll tell you this, even just from last week to today, yeah, they're just vibing in the meeting. But even just from last week to today, from getting back to doing the exercise bike, I was actually able to stand most of the day today. And to tell you what a big deal that is for me, up until I took over the managing role at my last company, I stood all day. Like, I didn't hardly sit down except at lunchtime. I came in to the office. I had a standing desk. I was standing all day working. I'd sit down to go eat lunch. I'd come back. I'd be standing all afternoon until I went home. That was it. And so this was a big deal for me. I was probably able to stand at my desk without it like hurting my muscles, like being exhausted for, I think damn near 4 hours today. That's a big deal for me. I've not been able to do that basically since Honey Badger was born. He's 4 now. So what happened was, while I was doing that, I got so beat down and I was so tired and I wasn't sleeping enough. I just literally did not have the energy to do anything more than just barely run my brain at like 20%. So standing was like out the window. In fact, my coworkers were like concerned the first day they came in, because I usually got in before everyone, and I wasn't standing at my desk. I was sitting down. Like, people were commenting, and I was like, dude, Blaise is sitting down. What is going on? So that was a big deal for me today. I was very happy about that. I hadn't tried it in a long time. I was like, dude, this is great. Anyway. So what do these guys expose out to there? Hey, Mechanic, what's up, dude? Graduated with my undergrad on the 16th. Nice. And applying for jobs. Do you suggest I do anything with my now spare Alienware laptop that could help me get experience job-wise? Is that your only laptop, or is that a spare laptop, mechanic? Also, Agent 57. Shut up, baby. I know it.
You would think that you would hear a different thing, but you don't. Now this one...
Agent, mechanic is a big boy. He can answer for himself.
You hear things that happen in the world. Air vibrates, it vibrates your ear, your brain...
Wait, actually, he did answer for himself. It's in the freaking text. Your spare Alienware. Depending on what specs it's got on it, you could easily go use it to run a couple virtual machines.
Magic. And this happens all sorts of...
I'm not pooping, I'm right here.
The pitch rising.
If you can always chuck the laptop through a company's window with your resume opened in Microsoft Word. At least then you know they got it. Nice. But yeah, I'd say that would be the main thing. It's like if you had some spare virtual machines you wanted to run on it, or if you're not really familiar with Linux, use it as a Linux testing machine. Throw Ubuntu on there first to like get started with it. That would be a great thing. Alienwares haven't really been around. I don't think. If I knew what model it was, I could give you some more advice on it, because they usually tended to have pretty decent hardware, but also nothing's got like really great hardware. Fedora. Fedora's for neckbeards. I wanted to like the Red Hat versions. I just couldn't get into them.
You also,
Peaches, what are you doing?
really likes to react to things.
Do you need to go outside? Oh, you're such a turd. I'm not a neckbeard. I'm a full beard. Full wizard beard. Hang on, guys. I gotta go let Peaches out. I'll be right back.
That sounds like it's continually going down, and it will keep going forever, but actually it's a loop, short loop, forever decreasing in pitch. So it tricks your brain. You also have, so if you hear a pitch, but it has a hole in the middle, so it actually stops, short burst, you'll actually continue to hear, your ear will just completely fill in all of the missing information, even though it's not there. And you'll still fill it in. It's actually pretty crazy. Crazy.
All right, I'm back. I'm back. I'm not pooping. Peaches is pooping. Let's see. Hey, Ford, what's up, dude? I've been using Fedora for a few years now, at work and home. It's nice. Actually, so I might get permission to boot the Windows off of my work laptop and swap it over to Fedora. I think that's because they had to have a supported Linux version for work, and so I might be able to get permission to do that, in which case I will put on the Fedora and look at my laptop and go, "Milady," and then yeah, I'll be rocking that at work because I'm so freaking sick of Windows 11. I'm sick of it. Anyway, so let's see what else they've got going on here. All right, so going back to the article finally after the massive detour and catching everybody up here. All right, so the GitHub repository that valid and flagged was named Private CISA. Really? And it harbored a vast number of internal CISA and DHS credentials. Hey, Hanzo, thanks for coming online, man. Welcome in and happy Wednesday. Windows sucks ass. It does. It does now, man. I'm hoping they do something better with Windows 12, if they ever make one. They're probably just going to do perpetual Windows 11 for forever. And that's how it would be.
Let's see. And the weird thing about masking is it even works in
Okay, so you got a Ryzen 9 5900 HX, 3070, and 16 gigs of DDR4. You could, yeah. So, Mechanic, if you have, how much experience do you have with Linux? Like actually using Linux like as a daily driver, being very comfortable going into the command line terminal and everything? Because that's going to inform my decision in there. Waiting. We're all just waiting. We're all just staring at the chat, Mechanic, waiting for you to reply. Don't be nervous. No pressure. All right, so daily driver, not much. Have some experience with Kali from my application security class, which we used for our VMs. Okay, what I'd say then is go put. I suggest everyone install, like, if you're first getting used to like Linux as a daily driver, start with Ubuntu. Since you're further along, and Agent 57 has obviously talked about how awesome Fedora is and is offering his free tech support in chat. Go install Fedora on it. Because once you have something going where like you can go through and just start learning how to daily drive it, just think about something you want to do. Like, hey, I just want to go check my email. Okay, cool. What email clients can I use? What are going to work on this, right? Oh, cool. Someone sent me a PDF. What can I use to open it? Just work on doing like very simple daily driver tasks on it and get very comfortable with it. Then start digging in over into the command line and like learning about like Linux daily driver activities. Like, hey, cool, here's where it stores log files in this operating system. Here's where a lot of the configuration files are stored. Here's how it represents block devices on disk, right? Here's where like I see my disk drives on the file system. And just get used to that, going through it. Maybe even find like, hey, just like there's Linux courses over on YouTube that you could go through with it. Get really comfortable working in that environment because you're going to encounter it a lot. A lot. Let's see. So what else did they store? What else did they expose here in the named private but not private one? So Valadin said the exposed credentials represented a textbook example of poor security hygiene, noting that the commit logs in the offending GitHub account showed that the administrator disabled the default settings in GitHub that blocks users from publishing SSH keys and other secrets in public code repositories. Was this like legit, or was this person like maybe paid some money to accidentally go put this stuff up on GitHub? That's what I'm wondering. So this is a quote from Valadin. Passwords stored in plain text in a CSV, backups in Git, explicit commands to disable GitHub secrets detection features. I honestly believe this was all fake before analyzing the content deeper. This is indeed the worst leak that I've witnessed in my career. And it's obviously an individual's mistake, but I believe it might reveal internal practices. One of the exposed files titled Important AWS Tokens. Oh no. Included the administrator credentials to 3 Amazon AWS GovCloud servers. Another file exposed on the GitHub repository named AWS Workspace Firefox Passwords.csv listed plain text usernames and passwords for dozens of internal CISA systems. CISA systems. That's always just going to bug me. Let's see. Those systems included one called LZDSO, which appeared to be short for Landing Zone DevSecOps, the agency's secure code development environment. Oh, Lord. Let's see. Felipe Cataregli. There we go. Founder of the security consultancy Ciralis. Man, these guys have come up with some creative names. Said he tested the AWS keys only to see whether they were still valid and determine which internal systems were exposed. The exposed accounts could access. Cataregli said the GitHub account that exposed the CISA secrets exhibits a pattern consistent with individual operators using the repository as a working scratchpad or synchronization mechanism rather than a curated project repository. Yep. I'd be curious to know who the guy was that did this, because there's been a number of times when I get access to like during a penetration test, they get access into a person's user account, right? And a lot of people are like, oh, cool, you're going to check their emails? Not usually. I mean, sometimes I will. But a lot of times I can find the really important stuff that they saved outside of email into like their OneDrive filter. And sure enough, you'd be surprised how many times I go through and I find like a passwords CSV file in their freaking OneDrive. Let's see. Did you have anything else interesting in here? Not really. Just that this person messed up really bad. Bad. Doubly bad. All right. Oh, nice. Botched disclosure. Google publishes exploit code threatening millions of Chromium users. Google publishes exploit code before the patch, reported 42 months earlier, is fixed. 42 months. That is almost 4 years. Damn. You could upgrade that laptop's RAM for the low price of 2 more Alienware laptops. Right? Hey, actually, if his laptop's running DDR4, it might not be as bad. It's probably not going to be super. Also, I don't think laptop RAM got hit as hard, but it still did get hit. So it's not quite like if he was running DDR5, then yeah, you'd be SOL upgrading the RAM on that thing. Anyway, so what did Google do here? What are you doing now, Alphabet? Google on Wednesday published exploit code for an unfixed vulnerability in its Chromium browser codebase that threatens millions of Chrome users. Basically, and pretty much anything else running Chromium. So the proof of concept code exploits a browser fetch programming interface, a standard that allows long videos and other long files to be downloaded in the background. An attacker can use the exploit to create a connection for monitoring some aspects of a user's browser usage as a proxy for viewing sites and launching denial of service attacks. Depending on the browser, the connections either reopen or remain open even after it or the device running it has rebooted. Wait, what? Depending on the browser, the connections either reopen or remain open even after it or the device running it has rebooted? I mean, maybe if it reboots and reopens the browser right away, that's wild. Unfixed for 42 months and counting. So the unfixed vulnerability can be exploited by any website a user visits. In effect, a compromise amounts to a limited backdoor that makes a device a part of a limited botnet. So the capabilities are limited in the same things a browser can do, such as visit malicious sites, provide anonymous proxy browsing to by others, enable proxy to DDoS attacks, and monitor user activity. Nonetheless, the exploit could allow an attacker to wrangle thousands or possibly millions of devices into a network. Once a separate vulnerability becomes available, the attacker could then use it to compromise all those devices. Yep, pretty much. So excuse me. It all got hit hard. I mean, yeah, all the RAM got hit pretty hard, but I don't think the DDR4 laptop RAM got hit that hard. I'd be surprised if it did. It'd be kind of wild. So the dangerous part here is that you can have a lot of different browsers together that you can in the future run something on if you figure it out. That's according to Laia Rebane, the independent researcher who discovered the vulnerability and privately reported it to Google in late 2022. God, this is old. She said using the exploit code Google prematurely published would be pretty easy, although scaling it to wrangle large numbers of devices into a single network would require more work. In the thread of Ribbon's disclosure to Google, 2 developers said in separate responses that it was a serious vulnerability, its priority was rated as a P1, the second highest classification, and the severity was rated as an S2, which is the third highest. Since the report 46 months ago, the vulnerability remained unknown except basically to Chromium developers. Then on a Wednesday morning, it was published to the Chromium bug tracker. Ooh, there it is. Rebane initially assumed the vulnerability was finally fixed. Shortly thereafter, she learned that, in fact, it remained unpatched. While Google removed the post, it remains available on archive sites along with the exploit code. Nice. Nice. Love the archives. Let's see. Google representatives didn't immediately respond to questions asking how or why it was published the vulnerability. In a statement, the company said it's aware of the code publication and is working on a fix. So Rubin said she reported multiple other Chrome or Chromium vulnerabilities that have resulted in patches. She said long delays in fixing them are common, although this instance was the longest. And she's quoted here as saying, "I think what happened is sort of a non-standard in that it does not get past any defined security boundaries," she said. "So it does not let an attacker, for example, access your emails or your computer or something like that. So I guess that led Google's own people to getting assigned, or the other people who were assigned not understanding it, and that's why it took so long. Or that's why it took such a long time." Yeah. So by exploiting the browser's fetch API, the code opens a service worker that remains persistently active. The connection is invoked by JavaScript running on a malicious site. Exploits are particularly hard to detect when run on Edge. The JavaScript might open a downloads drop-down window, but it doesn't add any items to it. So on later browser launches, the window will no longer appear. On Chrome, the download drop-down is more persistent. In either case, less experienced users are likely to consider the behavior the result of a nuisance bug and have no idea that their device is compromised. That's wild. So in the public disclosure thread, a developer said the logs indicate the use of the background fetch feature is extremely limited to Chrome, with an average of about 17 completed files per user per day. So that's pretty solid confirmation that nothing awful is happening at scale. And it's also a pretty good indication of how much telemetry they're collecting on these Chrome browsers. So it's not known how widely used the feature is for browsers other than Chrome. Rebin said that she doubts the vulnerability is being actively exploited against other browsers. No, but having that open as like a proxy is pretty damn cool. That's pretty cool. Okay, let's wrap it up. Nonetheless, the vulnerability poses a risk. Users of Chromium browser should be suspicious of download dropdowns that appear for no reason. Drilling into the cause and discovering that they're the result of a vulnerability being exploited remains more complicated. Other browsers Ray-Ban confirmed as vulnerable include Brave, Opera, Vivaldi, and Arc. Both Firefox and Safari are unaffected because they don't support browser fetching features. Well, that's because nobody really uses Firefox and Safari. Just gotta say. Hold on, I'm curious now. Let's see. Firefox browser share 2026. Let's see. Browser market share for 2026. What do we got here? I wonder where Firefox is. Firefox decline has slowed, but the floor is not yet visible. Firefox's all device share sits at 2.6% in 2026, down from 3%. So yeah, Firefox is toast. I wanted to like Firefox, but man, they just so much of the internet. It's kind of like, I'm going to date myself here, but you guys know that I'm old anyway. It's kind of like the old VHS versus Betamax thing, which even was really before my time. VHS had dominated by that point. But Betamax was actually the better technology, but they handled it horribly. And so everybody started going on towards VHS, including certain spicy filmmakers, right? Because the Betamax people didn't want the spicy, adultish films going into Betamax. So VHS said, hey, we'll make them for you. And then everybody just went over to VHS. Not saying that's what happened here, but it just reminds me of it. Damn, Firefox really fell off. What it was in Firefox browser. Oh, let me market share since 2000. Actually, I don't think Firefox was even in there since 2000. Oh, there we go. Yeah, so it actually started as Phoenix in 2000. 2009 was peak. Firefox reached its historic high in November 2009, holding between 31 and 32% global market share. So Chrome's launch in 2008 and subsequent speed advantages eroded Firefox's share, dropping to roughly 11% in 2015 as Chrome overtook it, continued to decline. So it was about 11% in 2015, and now 10 years later it's down to 3%. So it's just continually decaying. It's just dying a slow death. Oh, let's see. Another copy fail looking POC kernel Linux exploit. All right, let's do this. Hold on. The ads are about to start here, so let me let those run for just a second, and then we'll dive into this. I tried to just trigger a short ad break, let it run for a second. All right, let me check something real quick. Man, I'm really sad that tweet got deleted. Yep, it's gone. It's gone. Damn it! It had really cool info on it. I wonder if, so basically that thread went into a deep dive and like looked at the history of who Nightmare Eclipse was. And I don't know if maybe Nightmare Eclipse came up and said, hey, this is what I want, or this is what I'm thinking, you know, please don't dox me, bro. I'm wondering if that's what happened. Hang on. Hang on. All right, sorry about that. I got a message from my mom. I wanted to check it real quick. All right, cool. Ads are done. Let's look at this one. Dirty Decrypt proof of concept code released for Linux kernel. Let's see. So a POC exploit code has now been released for a recently patched security flaw in the Linux kernel that allows for another local privilege local privilege escalation. There we go. Dubbed Dirty Crypt, aka Dirty CBC. The vulnerability was discovered and reported by the Zelic and V12 security team on May 9th, only to be informed by the maintainers that it was a duplicate of a vulnerability that had already been patched in the mainline. So it's RxGK page cache write due to a missing cow or copy on write guard in the RxGK decrypt SKB. So it's another copy fail. Basically, it's something else in that copy fail family that's basically happening here. So in this code path, the kernel handles memory pages that are partly shared with the page cache of other processes. So a normal Linux optimization protected by a copy on write. As soon as a write to a shared page happens, a private copy is made beforehand so that the write doesn't bleed into other processes' data. So the absence of this cow guard in the decrypt means the data gets written to the memory of privileged processes, or depending on the exploit path, to the page cache of privileged files such as etc shadow or sewers, or a suid binary, leading to local privilege escalation. So Dirty Decrypt impacts only distributions with the config RxGK enabled, such as Fedora. Boom, 57. Boom. Also Arch and OpenSUSE. Tumbleweed. So in containerized environments, worker nodes running a vulnerable version of Linux could provide a pathway to escape the pod. Nice. I do love a good pod escape. So the vulnerability is susceptible to be pretty much a variant of copy fail and dirty frag and fragnesia. Yep, all those good ones. Let's see. Now they're just talking about copy fail here. Actually, I didn't hear about Fragnesia. Let me hear about this one. So Fragnesia was another variant of Dirty Frag, impacted the XFRM, ESP, and TCP subsystem. But the outcome was the same. It allowed unprivileged local attackers to modify read-only file contents in the kernel page cache and obtain root privileges. Nice. Nice. Poor Linux. Poor Linux. Wait, Gentoo got affected in this? Let me see. I haven't heard anything about Gentoo in a long time. Gentoo is rising for Linux. Oh wait, we did read about this one. This was the SSH keysign pwn. Yeah. But anyway, so yeah, even Gentoo got affected by that one. Eh. And another one for Linux here. Let me see what this one is. This is the keysign one? Hold on. Oh yeah, we already read this one. Codename keysign pwn. All right, let me close that one. All right, so speaking of Nightmare Eclipse, who we were talking about earlier, Microsoft warns of 2 actively exploited Defender vulnerabilities. So Microsoft Defender, or Microsoft has I can't talk. I thought I had a pretty good day today, but apparently I just beat myself down. Let's take this from the top. Let's try this again. Microsoft has disclosed that a privilege escalation and a denial of service flaw in Defender has come under active exploitation in the wild. Formerly tracked as CVE 2026-41091, it's rated as a 7.8. A successful exploitation of the flaw could allow an attacker to gain system privileges. Nice. Let's see. Improper link resolution before file access in Microsoft Defender allows an authorized attacker. Authorized attacker? I think they mean authenticated. I don't think that if they're authorized, they're not by definition an attacker. Anyway, allows an authenticated attacker to elevate privileges locally. I think that's what they meant to say. Authorized attacker? That's not what that word means. I don't think that means what you think it means. The second vulnerability under active exploitation was CVE 2026-45498, which scored a 4 on the CVSS score, which is the denial of service bug impacting Defender. So the 2 vulnerabilities have been addressed in Defender's anti-malware platform updates. Although Microsoft has not formally confirmed, the vulnerability descriptions for the CVEs overlap with that of Red Sun and Undefend, 2 Defender 0 days that were disclosed by Chaotic Eclipse, aka Nightmare Eclipse, my man, last month. Huntress has since observed exploitation of both vulnerabilities alongside Bluehammer, which Bluehammer was another, I think, Nightmare Eclipse drop. Let's see. Also addressed in that update was a heat-based buffer overflow vulnerability in Defender. Nice. That an unauthorized attacker could exploit to achieve remote code execution. Ooh, sexy. I love me some RCE. But there's no evidence that vulnerability had been exploited in the wild. The tech giant noted that systems that have disabled Microsoft Defender are not susceptible to the vulnerabilities. I'm not saying you should just disable Defender, but it's kind of, you have to appreciate the irony. And they added that no action is required to install the update since it automatically updates malware definitions and the Microsoft Malware Protection Engine. Let's see. So the US CISA has added both of them, both the CVEs to its known exploited vulnerabilities catalog. Let's see, requiring federal civilian executive branch agencies to apply fixes by June 3rd. So with this latest development, a total of 3 Microsoft vulnerabilities have been flagged as exploited within the span of a week. Last week, Redmond disclosed that a cross-site scripting flaw impacting on-premises versions of Exchange, which nobody should be using these days, had been weaponized in real-world attacks. Yep. Oh wait, hold on, let me see here. Oh, they even talk about this. Update. Security researcher Nightmare Eclipse has moved to GitLab after their GitHub account was taken down because Microsoft got butthurt. In a post dated May 23rd, 2026, they accused Microsoft of flagging their GitHub account and wiping it clean. Researcher also confirmed that the CVEs, one of them was the Undefend and one of them was Red Sun. So the signed message ends with a direct message to the company. Mark this day, July 14th. July 14th? Or mark this date, July 14th. I will make sure your bones are shattered that day. Nothing will be released this June, or maybe I will release something depending on circumstances. That's funny. I'm just sitting back and enjoying the show with the popcorn, honestly. All right, so actually something interesting on the positive side coming up from Defender. Microsoft is now testing a new Defender for Endpoint capability that would automatically isolate compromised endpoints to thwart attackers' attempts to move laterally across the network. So this is now available in preview mode, works as part of the automated attack disruption, a feature designed to contain attacks, limit their impact, and provide security teams with more remediation time. So compromised endpoints that are automatically isolated are disconnected from the network to reduce the risk of further impact, but they retain connectivity to the Microsoft Defender for Endpoint service, which will continue to monitor the devices. Interesting. So while a device in your organization is susceptible to be compromised, Microsoft Defender for Endpoint. So let me make a note of this. Microsoft Defender is different. This is what comes like, hey, Vice, what's up, dude? Defender is what comes with Windows. Like you go install Windows on your computer, you're getting Defender. Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, because Microsoft absolutely sucks at branding, is Defender for enterprises, basically. It's like what you would use if you had like an E3, E5 license from Microsoft, and that's how your system is licensed. That's what that is. But anyway, so Defender for Endpoint can automatically isolate the device as part of automated attack disruption. Automatic isolation helps reduce the risk of further impact on the organization, limit attackers' lateral movement, and prevent impacts such as data exfiltration and ransomware propagation. Now, you know what I'm thinking about, like just as like a total dick move for this, is what if you knew that that's what they were running and you purposely wanted to like draw them away from what the like actual hacking activity you were doing? So you purposely went through and triggered this on some non-related critical system, and you do it in a way where it looks like it's kind of benign. But basically, you know, it's kind of like the whole thing of, hey, you pull the fire alarm so you can sneak into the building. You do that, right? You go pull the fire alarm on one server, and it's like, oh my god, the database is down. It's been isolated. And everybody's like, flood the database. And then while they're doing that, you're like exfiltrating data like in a different part of the network. That's the only thing I can think of with this. Although I have been in a situation where I was on a device that it got isolated, and it really does isolate it. It locks it down. I think I could barely get DHCP out. It was wild. So automatic device isolation only works on onboarded end-user workstations managed by Defender for Endpoint. So they can also be released from containment at any time by the security operators after completing the incident investigation and mitigating the risks. And so to release a device from automatic isolation, you just select it from the device inventory over in the Defender for Endpoint, basically like dashboard. About 4 years ago, Microsoft also announced that admins could manually contain compromised unmanaged Windows devices by cutting off incoming and outgoing communications with onboarded Defender endpoints. Microsoft also began testing device isolation support for Defender for Endpoint, a bunch of other stuff. Yeah. Kind of a lame one here. We're done with that one. Let's see. Ooh, what's going on here? Cloud Mythos finds 10,000 high severity flaws in widely used software. Let's see what Anthropic's Skynet is up to right now. So Anthropic on Friday disclosed that Project Glasswing has helped uncover more than 10,000 high or critical severity vulnerabilities across some of the most systematically important software across the world since the cybersecurity initiative went live last month. Project Glasswing is a defensive effort launched by the AI company to secure global critical software infrastructure. It grants a small set of about 50 partners exclusive early access to the Cloud Mythos Preview, a frontier model with capabilities to autonomously identify vulnerabilities in widely used software before bad actors can exploit them. Now, the funny thing is, I actually just got pulled off a project where I was going to finally get to play with Mythos. So yeah, I had a client with access, and they were going to bring me in to do some work for them with it. I was really excited. And then I got pulled over to like do this completely different project. I was like, ah, man. I wanted to see how well it did, like what they were actually doing with it. So of these vulnerabilities, 6,202 have been classified as high or critical severity flaws impacting more than 1,000 source code projects. Subsequent analysis of these vulnerability candidates has identified 1,726 are valid true positives. Okay. Wait a sec. Let me make sure I read this correctly. Can I touch your beard? Only if you can find me. Which, the hard part is, I work from home. And I don't ever open my front door. So, good luck. Oh, man. I didn't think I was so tired. That's alright. The new stream waits for no one. Also, Ahmet, welcome in. I hope you're having a wonderful Wednesday. Let's see here. Let me make sure I understood this correctly. So they're saying that Mythos found 10,000 higher critical severity vulnerabilities. Can I look at the disclosure directly? Hang on. Okay, here it is. I want to read this directly from the Anthropic's mouth. So the software industry's longstanding convention is to disclose vulnerabilities 90 days after they're discovered, or if a patch has been created before the 90 days is up, around 45 days after the patch becomes available. This allows time for end users to update their software before the vulnerability can be exploited by attackers, known as coordinated vulnerability disclosure. Yeah. I'm too tired from applying for jobs. I understand that, man. Although, a little bit of hope. Let's see, the very first article we covered tonight was Uber's chief operating officer saying, hey, we don't know how we're getting any bang for our buck with AI because they blew their entire AI budget for the year by April. And they're like, we don't have any measurable metrics to show that this did a lot. Like, we can't show that we're shipping better features to help out the users or what's really been happening with it. So, yeah. They're finally realizing that, oh, hey, this stuff costs money. People cost money too. Well, let me see. I want to see what they've got here so far. Okay, so here's what they've called about evidence from our partners and external testers. So Project Glasswing's initial partners build and maintain software that is fundamental to functioning of our and other of the internet and other essential infrastructure. So after 1 month, most partners have each found hundreds of critical or high severity vulnerabilities in their software. Collectively, they found more than 10,000. Several have told us that their rate of bug finding has increased by more than a factor of 10. For instance, Cloudflare has found 2,000 bugs, 400 of which were high or critical severity, across their critical path systems, with a false positive rate that Cloudflare's team considers better than human testers. I mean, that's cool, but I would prefer to have like a somewhat concrete number other than just better than human testers. So this tallies with external testers' experience with the Mythos preview, yada yada. So the UK AI Safety Institute reports that Mythos preview is the first model to solve both of their cyber ranges from end to end. Mozilla found and fixed 721 vulnerabilities in Firefox while testing Mythos preview, 10 times more than they had found in Firefox with the Claude Opus 4.6. Expo reports that Mythos preview is a significant step up over all existing models on its web exploit benchmark and provides absolutely unprecedented precision on a token for token basis. I'd be interested in seeing what it's doing, but like at the same time, it's like it's hard to get excited about this whenever you know so much of this is market material. Let's see, Exploit Bench and Exploit Gym, two recently released academic benchmarks for measuring models' exploit development capabilities, show Mythos preview as the strongest performer. So we discussed these benchmarks. We discussed what these benchmarks tell us about the model in more detail in our Frontier Red Team blog. I need to keep up with that blog. I don't know if I've got it added to my tracker. Hang on a sec. I'm going to see if I add this. I didn't mean to close that. Go back. So for the last few months, I'm trying to see where else they're talking about this. Because they're throwing out a lot of numbers in here and they're not quite meshing in my brain. Because they're talking about like, hey, we found over 10,000, but then they say like, hey, we found 6,200. I was like, what's the real number here? So for the last few months, Anthropic has used Mythos Preview to scan more than 1,000 open source projects, which collectively underpin much of the internet and much of our own infrastructure. It has found what is estimated to be 6,202 higher critical severity vulnerabilities in these projects out of 23,019 in total, including those estimated as medium or low severity. So where did the 10,000 come from earlier? So I'm guessing this is, of that 6,202, 1,752 of those higher critical rating vulnerabilities have now been carefully assessed by one of 6 independent security research firms. Let's see. So of these, about 1,587 have proved to be true positives, and 62.4 were confirmed as either high or critical severity. Okay, so because what was this? Was this Bleeping Computer? Hacker News. Hacker News did a kind of a shit job of like explaining how these were validated, and looking at the note from Anthropic actually does a way better job. So they found 6,200 higher critical severity vulnerabilities of a total of like 23,000. I mean, so that's a pretty good find rate. But this is the part that was throwing me off. 1,700 of those have been carefully assessed by one of 6 independent security firms. So that's just meaning that they still have a whole buttload more to go assess, right? And basically, of the ones they have assessed, though, basically 90% of them have proved to be true valids, and 62% of those were confirmed as a higher critical severity. So there's been some refining here where they're like, hey, we're not just taking Mythos at its word, we're actually going through and validating what's happening here. That means that even if Mythos Preview finds no further vulnerabilities at our current post-triage positive rates, it's now on track to have surfaced nearly 3,900 high or critical severity vulnerabilities in open source code, in addition to those found from Project Glasswing's partners. Nice. That's pretty cool. Okay, here we go. This is kind of what I was looking for. Let me zoom out a little bit. So they had 23,000 candidate findings. They should have led with this. Lead with the damn picture. They had 1,900 findings reviewed by external security firms. 1,700 findings were confirmed valid of that 1,900 so far. So about a 90% true positive rate. And about 467 findings were reported to maintainers. Let's see, 1,129 findings reported directly to maintainers by Anthropic, which may contain false positives, so they just sent them directly on. Let's see. So the combination of these two is 1,500, almost 1,600 findings. About 1,451 were acknowledged by the maintainers. Not only 97 were patched upstream, but this triggered 88 security advisories. I was like, you can see the filter like just decreasing as it goes through. So our process for triaging vulnerabilities is intensive. Hold on, there it goes. First, we or one of our external security firms we work with reproduce the issue that Mythos has found and reassess its severity. Once we've confirmed that the vulnerability is real, we check whether or not there was already a fix in place and write a detailed report to the software's maintainers. So we take considerable care here. On top of the regular challenges of maintaining open source software, maintainers have been facing a deluge of low-quality AI-generated bug reports. Indeed, several maintainers have told us they're currently severely capacity constrained, and some have even asked us to slow down our rate of disclosures because they need more time to design patches. Oh no. I thought Mythos was actually going through and like building the patches for the vulnerabilities it was disclosing. I thought that's what it was doing. So on the maintainer's request, we sometimes disclose bugs directly without further assessment. Oh, hey Matt, thanks for coming online, man. Appreciate it. Well, let's see. So we've now reported a whole bunch of unvetted ones. Adapting to a new phase of cybersecurity. So yeah, a whole lot of interesting stuff happening here. I'm still really curious about how they're using Mythos, because I'm really under the impression that Mythos is probably a really cool model, but also without access to some kind of a testing harness in there. And hell, it might just be that they're running Mythos in... Sorry, I said it wrong. Mythos. They're just running it in Claude code. I was like, there's nothing that says they couldn't be doing that. In which case, it would make total sense. But I'm always curious about what the harness and testing setup is. All right, enough about the Mythos. This is what I'm interested to read about. Interpol's Operation Rams disrupts the MENA cybercrime network with 201 arrests. Let's see. So Interpol has coordinated a first-of-its-kind cybercrime crackdown across the Middle East and North Africa. I've never heard that called MENA before. Middle East, North Africa. Interesting. So that led to 201 arrests and the identification of additional 382 suspects. So the initiative involves the efforts of 13 countries from the region aiming to investigate and neutralize malicious infrastructure, arrest perpetrators behind these activities, and prevent future losses. So it took place between October and February this past year. The operation focused on neutralizing phishing and malware threats, as well as tracking cyber scams that inflict severe cost to the region. Let's see, in addition to the arrests made, 3,867 victims were identified and 53 servers were seized. The operation, codenamed RAMS, led to the disruption of a phishing as a service. I hate that everything is as a service. This led to the disruption of a phishing as a service, otherwise known as FAS, which if I pronounce that wrong on stream, I'm going to get banned, by Algerian authorities after its server was confiscated. Along with a computer, a mobile phone, and hard drives containing phishing software and scripts, one suspect was arrested in connection with the scheme. Elsewhere, Moroccan officials seized computers and smartphones and external hard drives that contained banking data and software used for phishing operations. Authorities also identified a legitimate server located in a private residence in Oman that contained sensitive information. The server suffered from multiple critical security vulnerabilities and was infected by malware. There's no honor amongst thieves. Interpol said actions were taken to disable the server. So in a similar case, compromised devices were discovered in Qatar, with the owners themselves unaware that the systems had been used to spread malicious threats. Oh, okay, so hold on. This was a legitimate server that just got backdoored by it. Okay. I thought this was one of the actual bad guys servers. So although the exact nature of these threats were not disclosed, the impacted machines are said to have been secured and the device owners were alerted to take appropriate security measures. Let's see. Jordanian police also identified a computer that was used to run financial fraud scams, where unsuspecting users were tricked into investing their assets in a seemingly legitimate trading platform, only for it to shut down once the funds were deposited. So a raid uncovered 15 individuals carrying out the scheme. Investigators determined that there were victims of human trafficking who had been recruited under false promises of employment from their home countries in Asia. Damn. That's brutal. So upon arrival in Jordan, their passports were confiscated and they were forced or coerced to participating in the scheme. 2 individuals suspected of orchestrating the operation were arrested. Good. Throw them under the jail. Let's see. So Group IB, which is one of the private sector companies that participated in the effort, said it provided actionable intelligence on over 5,000 compromised accounts, including those that were associated with government infrastructure, and shared details about active phishing infrastructure across the region. Let's see. Cybercrime is borderless, and the only effective response is the one that is equally borderless, according to Joe Sanders, CEO of Team Cymeru. Operation RAMS is exactly that kind of response law enforcement and trusted private sector partners pooling intelligence, moving in concert, and dismantling the infrastructure that criminals depend on. Nice. So countries that took part of this are Algeria, Bahrain, Egypt, Iraq, Jordan, Lebanon, Libya, Morocco, Oman, Palestine, Qatar, or Qatar, however you want to say it, Tunisia, I guess. Not sure. Tunisia. Yeah, we'll go with that. And the United Arab Emirates. So the arrests come against the backdrop of a string of law enforcement actions announced by Germany and the U.S. Department of Justice. So there was sentencing of Thomas Tzapso, aka Plank, who's a Romanian. He was sentenced to 48 months for his role in the mastermind and online swatting ring that targeted more than 75 public officials, 4 religious institutions, and multiple journalists. Good. Throw him under the prison. 48 months? That's nothing. That's, as far as I'm concerned, that is 75 counts? Dude, that's 75 counts of attempted murder there. That's what swatting is. That's attempted murder. This guy probably should be spending life in jail. It's like, oh, hey, you want to play stupid games? Go look at that dude. That's stupid prizes that you win. Well, let's see. Other stuff to come out of this was the indictment of Owie. I think his name is Owie? Owie Martin Anderson, aka Speed Stepper, suspect to be the main administrator of an illicit darknet marketplace called Dream Market, on money laundering charges following his arrest in Germany. shutdown of a relaunched version of Crime Network Marketplace, and the arrest of suspected administrator, a 35-year-old German citizen. And so a lot of guys getting busted for this. Now, let me see if there's anybody else in here. Actually, yeah. Oh, wait, I think we talked about this dude last week. Sohab Akhtar. Akhtar. Yes. From Alexandria, Virginia. I can't talk. Alexandria, Virginia. Yeah, we talked about him. For deleting 96 databases storing U.S. government information and stealing about it, and then leaving the Teams call open while he did it, talking to his twin brother. Bro. OPSEC failure to the max. Let's see. Another darknet marketplace operator. This guy, David Jose Gomez Segarra of Venezuela, he was sentenced to time served and to pay restitution totaling $294,000 for ATM jackpotting in the states of New York, Massachusetts, and Illinois. So if you don't know what jackpotting is, it's basically like hacking the ATM and getting it to spit out money. That's what it is. Yep, so a whole bunch of folks getting busted by Interpol. Awesome. Man, so far... Hold on, let me see if I've got something else in here real quick. Because I get tired of just reading hacker news. So far, I got a lot of tuning to do on Harvey's reporting. Actually, yeah, hold on. You know what? We'll jump ahead here. I had this one already open, but I want to jump to it. FBI, this is from Bleeping Computers. FBI warns of Kali 365 phishing service targeting Microsoft 365 accounts. So the FBI is warning about Kali 365 phishing as a service and is used to hijack Microsoft 365 accounts by abusing OAuth device code authentication to steal session tokens and bypass MFA. So Kali 365 first emerged in April and is distributed via Telegram channels for cybercriminals seeking an easier way to compromise Microsoft 365 accounts without stealing passwords or intercepting MFA codes. So the platform uses device code phishing, which is increasingly popular abuse. I'm surprised it's not been more prevalent because I've been doing that for a long time, actually. So the authentication method was created to allow devices with limited input capabilities, such as smart TVs or conference room systems, or IoT devices, to authenticate via another device using a short-lived code from Microsoft's device login portal. So in February, extortion gangs, including shiny hunters, were targeting Microsoft intro accounts via device code and voice phishing. So in these attacks, the actors initiated the device authorization process themselves to generate a code, then tricked targets into entering it into Microsoft's login page via phishing and social engineering. Once the victim entered that code and completed the MFA, Microsoft issues an OAuth access token that grants the threat actor full access to their account without requiring them to solve any MFA challenges. By the way, I got to see a preview of a buddy's Black Hat talk that is coming up, and he's doing some amazing stuff around passkeys and abusing them. It's gonna be sick. I got the dress rehearsal today, and it's gonna be awesome. It's freaking great stuff. He was working on it, and he made his own freaking browser to do this. Like, he's like, I hate JavaScript, so I'm just gonna make my own browser, bro. Just an absolute mad lad. Hold on. There you go. Didn't want to cough into the microphone. So after that, let me run through what's happening here. So the user goes through and basically says, hey, I'm going to generate a device code login on Microsoft 365. It gives them a device code. Short, I think it's a mixture of numbers and letters, but it's a little code, right? They use some kind of social engineering to trick a user into entering that code into the Microsoft device login. Once they do, that device that requested that code is going to get an OAuth token as that person. So eventually essentially it allows that device to be enrolled into that person's account and logged in as them. So that's what they're doing here. So the threat actors, basically after they do that, they now have full access to all applications the user normally would have access to via their single sign-on, including anything else that uses that single sign-on, like Salesforce, other SaaS platforms. Let's see. The FBI warns that Kali 365 gives even low-skilled attackers gives even low-skilled attackers access to advanced phishing capabilities, including AI-generated phishing lures, automated campaign templates, real-time victim tracking, and token capture functionality. Nice. Researchers at Arctic Wolf reported that Kali 365, I don't know why they called it that. It's like, bro, you're just going to pollute your activity. Reported that Kali 365 activity in April after observing a widespread campaign targeting organizations worldwide. The researcher said the campaign primarily targeted Microsoft 365 environments using phishing emails that directed victims to Microsoft's device code login portal, where they unknowingly authorized attackers to access their account. And the researcher said the resulting attacks gave the hackers access to mailboxes where they created malicious inbox rules designed to hide their activity. Yep, that's pretty common. So what they'll do is they'll make an inbox rule that says, hey, if anything contains anything that might come in like a security log, like a Microsoft security login warning, right? That might come to your inbox, just trash it immediately. Or, hey, anything that comes in and it meets certain criteria, auto forward a copy to me and then delete it. Stuff like that. In some of the attacks, the attackers also registered new devices in the victim's Microsoft environment, further extending their access into the breached network. Arctic Wolf found that basically, Kali 365 operates as a business with admins who manage product development, resellers who promote the service to other threat actors, and affiliates who conduct phishing attacks. I wonder if they have like affiliate marketing where it's like, hey, use my referral code when you go, you'll get this thing. Researchers also said the platform offers two separate attack modes, with the first one being device code phishing and the second being an adversary in the middle model named Cookie Link. Cookie Link proxies victims through attacker-controlled infrastructure that captures authenticated browser sessions, session cookies, and tokens after the target logs in and solves an MFA challenge. The FBI recommends companies restrict or completely block device code authentication, yada, 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 pretty much. This is not even really new, though. I mean, this is something that's been around for quite a while. But usually that's what happens is a lot of times it's like, hey, this stuff pops up, and it's really cool and it gets used for a little while, but nothing really happens around it until it happens around it, right? All right, hang on, let me see what else I've got over here. Let me go back through the news thread real quick. Actually, hold on. There was a little repo I wanted to go through here. Here we go. The Relay Bible. By the way, you know what? I'm falling down the job, guys. I apologize. I was not linking any of the articles into the chat as we're going through them. So here is a copy to this. This is really cool. So Relay Bible is basically an internal penetration tester's guide to relaying attacks. So doing those kind of man-in-the-middle attacks in here. So it looked really cool. I wanted to bring it up and put it up as a resource for everybody. So like how the fundamentals of NTLM authentication and relay work, Kerberos authentication and relay theory, and all these other ones in here. And then how things like Petit Patam and Printerbug and Shadow Course all worked. So I mean, I think these are all pretty awesome. I wonder if he talks about the WebDAV coercion trick. That's always a good one. Actually, let me see what he says about cross-protocol relays, because this is something you can do with like NTLM Relay X, where you could get an authentication in like one protocol, like in this case SMB, and could it go to LDAP, or HTTP, could it go to LDAP? Yes. So if you could elicit an HTTP authentication to you, then you could actually relay that over to LDAP. Or in some case, even MySQL or HTTP, right? And so the key here was the target must not require SMB signing. And there's another note here, blocked on patch systems. Right, and for the double star, only if EPA and channel binding is not enforced. Basically meaning they're not using LDAP-S right here. So in this case, though, if you got HTTP, then boop, you could relay that over to LDAP. And a lot of times, targets don't really require SMB signing. So it's not such a big deal. So that's just a cool resource I wanted to drop for y'all. Let me see what else we've got. Let me see. I'm checking the rest of the new stream here. Hang on. Let me try something real quick. Man. Freaking Discord is atrocious. So many supply chain attacks. Hang on, there was some other ones in here I wanted to cover. I don't think I grabbed them all real quick. Stand by, y'all. I'm checking the new stream data, the new thread over in Discord. See this one real quick. Arc Stealer from page impersonating Claude. See if that'll load up. So in recent weeks, I've searched for pages impersonating Claude that distribute malware. So in recent weeks, I've reliably found these sites through malicious ads in Google searches that lead to the pages, often concealed in URLs, such like from this example. Let me see. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So these fake Claude pages generally show instructions for Mac OS malware when viewed on a Mac OS system, and they'll show instructions for Windows. That's fairly common. If you're going to buy ad space, you might as well make sure you're delivering the malware to the correct operating system. So today's diary shows an example of Windows malware from one of these pages seen on May 25th. Based on the C2 domain for the post-infection traffic, this appears to be an infection for Arc Stealer. And so, hold on. Let's look at Arc Stealer real quick. Good old Malpedia. Haven't been on there in a while. Arc Stealer is an information stealer sold as a malware as a service. God, I hate as a service. On Russian-speaking cybercrime forums by a threat actor named Shield.io, researchers posit that the malware is an evolved version of GR Mask Stealer, which likely aligns with the private stealer that Shield.io has been selling since July of 2023. The malware, written in C++, is compatible with Windows 7 through 10, and the seller manages all command and control infrastructure. Arc Stealer can harvest system information, stored credentials, web cookies, cryptocurrency wallets, and configuration files for various programs. Additionally, it employs the dead drop resolver technique to obfuscate the actual C2 infrastructure. Interesting. Okay, so that's what they're deploying in these fake Claude websites here. That's it? Man, I was hoping there's going to be some more to this. They're just doing click fix. That's lame. That's lame. Lame. You still see any really interesting, malware these days? Let's see. Ghost CMS had an exploit happening around. Oh, I think I actually pulled this one up already. Here we go. Let's look at this one. Lazarus deploys remote PE memory-only remote access Trojan against financial and crypto firms. Cybersecurity researchers have shed light on cross-platform malware called remote PE.
Alert.
Hey, Tannis, what's up, brother? Attack! Attack of the Tannis! That's all right. It's all right. Got you. All right, I just have to type cookie. There we go. Boom. The Tannis virus is disabled. Welcome in, Raiders. I hope you're all having a wonderful, enlightening Linux stream with Professor Dr. Sensei Hat Tannis. Oh, let me get this going real fast. Boom. Dr. Tannis, Professor, Esquire. What were you covering tonight, dude? I'm real with you. I have the weeks that are short weeks, like because we had Memorial Day off. I get run the most ragged during those. Yeah, Dr. Sue, but not yet. Nice. High performance compute. Man, you always talk about like the really cool, like I hate everything about this technology, right? I cover all the stuff where people are like, I just don't ever want to touch a computer again. I want to move to a farm in the middle of Kansas. Which actually sounds really awesome. Except not Kansas, because it gets too damn cold up there. Course that work asked you to put together. Nice. What's funny is we were covering some of the stuff that was happening on around Mythos and Project Glasswing earlier, and I actually just got pulled off a project where I have a client that does have access to Mythos, and I was going to get to work with him on some internal work that they've got going on. But then I got pulled off to go do course development for a different client because it's all based around AI stuff, and so they needed somebody who understood it. I was like, all right, cool. So put me in, coach. I didn't want to play with Skynet anyway. It's fine. Oh, too fun. If I ever had enough computers to mess with something like high performance compute clustering, that would be awesome. Actually, yeah. So the course you're working on, Taz, I know you probably got to raid and run. That's cool. I'm just curious, did y'all have any kind of a lab setup? Or like, hey, you could do like little simulated high performance clustering? Because that'd be sick. Oh, sick. Okay. If that ever becomes publicly available, let me know so I can check that out. I'd be curious to see what it's like. So, but anyway, for everybody who just came in on the raid, we're talking about some security news. That's basically it. That's what we're doing. This one is about, what is this? A group called Lazarus deploying basically a memory only remote access Trojan. And they're targeting financial and crypto firms. So we're just kind of reading through it real fast here. Let's see what they've got going on. Hold on. I lost my place. All right, here we go. Actually, I don't think we had even started. I think we were just getting ready to start it. And then I had to fend off the Tannis virus. That's all right. It's good time. Good times. Security researchers have shed light on a cross-platform malware called Remote PE that's been put to use by North Korea-linked Lazarus Group in attacks targeting financial and cryptocurrency orgs. Remote PE, per the NCC Group subsidiary Foxit, I never call it Fox IT. It's Foxit. Is part of a multi-stage attack chain that involves two loaders tracked as DPAPI loader and Remote PE loader. So DPAPI loader decrypts and loads Remote PE loader from disk using the Windows Data Protection API. Nice. Otherwise, I like to call it DPAPI. DPAPI. Security researchers Young Sang-hoo and Mick Kumin said the Remote PE loader becomes a C2 server and waits until it receives the next stage, which is Remote PE, a RAT, Remote Access Trojan, executed entirely in memory and never written to disk, leaving no file system artifacts. Remote PE was first highlighted by the security vendors in September 2025 in connection with an attack targeting an unnamed organization in the DeFi sector, leading to the deployment of 3 malware families, including Pond Rat, Theme Forest Rat, and Remote PE. So the intrusion commenced with the compromise of an employee's device through social engineering after approaching the victim on Telegram under the guise of an existing employee of a trading company and scheduling meetings on fake Calendly and PickTime domains. So the Remote PE infection sequence goes through 3 stages. The DPAPI loader DLL, responsible for decrypting and loading Hang on one sec, guys. I'll be right back. All right, y'all, I'm back. Sorry about that. That was my mom calling, and she never calls this late. So I had to call her. I had to talk to her and see what was going on. And it's very, very hard to get off the phone with my mother. But you know what? She put up with me for 42 years. I could do a little bit for her. She was having phone trouble. She is currently learning how to use her new phone. So, anyway, sorry about the interrupt. Let's get back to it. Let's see, where did we leave off with this? Okay, so they were talking about the remote PE getting dropped on there. So the intrusion commenced when the compromise of an employee's device through social engineering, and basically they approached him through Telegram and they sent him fake calendar links to like link up. So the infection sequence goes through 3 stages. Relatable. I know. It is Feist, but it's like, hey, if I don't help her out with this stuff, then she's basically wandering into the dark forest. My mom was so fervently like anti-technology, and I'm like, hey, I've got to guide you through this. And in fact, I just had to chew out my older son because he was doing stuff, watching things on YouTube he wasn't supposed to, because he had some unmonitored time. And I was like, dude, there's horrible stuff on YouTube I don't want you to see. So I had to have my grandpa liked to call it, a come to Jesus meeting with him about looking up certain things on YouTube. Oh, the wonders of tech. Love it. Anyway. All right. So back on the article. So the remote PE infection sequence basically goes through 3 stages. So the DPAPI loader, responsible for decrypting and loading the encrypted payload from disk using DPAPI. And the earliest DPAPI loader artifact dated back all the way to 2023. So the decrypted payload is another loader, which is the remote PE loader, which is designed to contact the remote service over HTTP, fetch core modules, and execute it in memory, but not before taking steps to evade detection using techniques like the Hell's Gate and patching ETW tracing. Which one was Hell's Gate? Let me see. I forget which one this is, because there were a lot of these gate-style exploits. Bypass user mode hooks implemented by EDRs. Attackers employ various techniques for unhooking or bypassing safeguards. So one key issue that Hell's Gate solves is the avoidance of hard-coded system service numbers, also known as syscall IDs, and direct syscall POCs. Instead, it allows for dynamic retrieval of those SSNs, which are those system service numbers, from native functions within the NTDLL at runtime. Ooh, nice. So basically, avoiding the man-in-the-middle hooking that EDRs do in there. Oh yeah, those come to Jesus talks. He'll thank you later in life. I think so too. And he felt really bad, and I was like, dude, I'm not telling you this stuff because I'm not doing this stuff because I'm trying to be mean, right? And I don't want you to be able to look stuff up, but I need to be able to coach you going through it, because as someone who grew up on the internet, right? I was like, I saw stuff I should not have seen, stuff I wish I could unsee, right? And I'd like for you not to go down those same paths and to learn from my hard-won scars of my mind. So, yeah, definitely. And he's a sweet kid, too. So, I definitely would like to encourage that part to stay in him and not become jaded by the world by going onto the internet. And I had to tell him, I was like, hey, dude, that's why your laptop doesn't have internet access. That's why you're not allowed to use the iPad in your bedroom. You have to do it while Mommy and I are sitting over by you. Thank you, sweetie. Sock brought me more kombucha. Homemade kombucha. Let's see. How bad can it get on YouTube? It's pretty much like Twitch as far as TOS. So, like, one of the things that he was looking at was, like, Thomas.exe and the Mario Odyssey Blood Seed. Fucking creepypastas from weirdos that want to corrupt kids' stuff. Hey, Code Warrior, what's up, man? Sorry, I turned off the camera while I was popping my pills. Next thing I know, you guys will make a compilation of it. It's like, God, look at this guy just popping pills during stream. It's my bedtime pills. Let's see. Okay, so going back to the article here. So what the loader is doing, the remote PE loader, which executes the actual remote PE Trojan, it uses Hell's Gates to basically try to avoid EDR hooking, and then tries to patch ETW. to avoid telemetry collection. Let's see. So DPAPI loader decrypts and executes in memory the loader. The loader uses Hell's Gates and ETW and then checks the C2 config, checks in with the C2 server, pulls down the actual remote PE memory Trojan to execute, decrypts that in memory, and then actually executes remote PE here, and then basically elevates it to a full C2. So this is like their stage 0, and this would be like this would be their stage 0 technically. Stage 1, and then full remote access Trojan. Also, hey Ken, what's up, dude? Happy Wednesday. All right, so the final stage is that full-fledged remote PE Trojan, written in C++, pulls the C2 server for further instructions. It can obtain or modify the C2 config, change its current working directory, register new DLL modules, do all the fun stuff that most of these C2s can do. So a notable aspect of the file deletion command is that it overwrites each file with constant bytes 7 times before renaming and deleting it. Pattern observed in the PondRat and PoolRat samples. PondRat was assessed to be a lightweight version of PoolRat. Foxit said it obtained 4 remote PE samples that indicated the rat was under active development between mid-2023 and mid-2024, and the final version had a compilation timestamp of July 4th, 2023. So the toolset environment keyring, memory-only execution, EDR evasion, and low forensic footprint suggest it's a purpose-built for long-term observation campaigns. This allows the actors to quietly maintain access over an extended period before moving to high-impact final objectives such as data theft or large-scale financial heists consistent with the actor's known history. So the actor in the loop delivery method in the toolset low detection rate, neither remote PE loader nor remote PE appeared on VirusTotal prior to this publication. Really? Interesting. That suggests that the toolset may be reserved for high-value targets where long-term stealthy access to the objective, consistent with Lazarus Group's known focus on financial and cryptocurrency. Yeah. They're just gonna go steal all the cryptos and stuff. Let's see. Did I have anything else before we jump into this one? This was another one that was just kind of interesting that I had in here. Actually, yeah, Cisco patched a CVSS 10 exploit. Oh yeah, let's look at some of these. Oh yes, backdoor abusing Discord and the Microsoft Graph API. Nice. Trend Micro Apex 0 or Apex 10 day exploited. And then let's grab one more here. Bring your own vulnerable driver exploitation. All right. All right, I got to work on Harvey because Harvey's pulling all this stuff from Hacker News, and I was like, dude, Hacker News is usually like the last people to know about this, so I gotta go tune him up some more. Let's take a look at this one. U.S. government takes a $2 billion equity stake in 9 quantum computing firms. Let's see. So the U.S. government is taking equity stakes in a slew of quantum computing companies, including a startup backed by a firm with links to the Trump family and one taken public by a Pentagon official. So the announcement by the Commerce Department that it had signed letters of intent with 9 companies, including Global Foundries and IBM, sent shares in Quantum Specialists soaring on Thursday. So both IBM, which is set to get $1 billion, and Global Foundries, which is going to receive $375 million, we're up more than 6%. Yada, yada, yada. Don't care. Let's see. So among the recipients was also PsiQuantum, which last year raised money from a group of investors. Let's see. Okay, is there any more information about this, or is it just, hey, here's all the money flowing around? Because if so, I'm going to be very disappointed in this article. Several companies have received smaller sums, including Vulcan, yada, yada. Okay, this is all just talking about the money. You disappoint me, Ars Technica. You disappoint me. My expectations were low, and you still did not meet them. All right, let's look at this one. Cisco patched a CVSS 10 secure workload REST API flaw. Let's see. So tracked as CVSS 2026-20223. The vulnerability arises from insufficient validation and authentication when accessing REST API endpoints. So an attacker could exploit this vulnerability if they were able to send crafted API requests to an affected endpoint. A successful exploit could allow the attacker to read sensitive information and make configuration changes across tenant boundaries with the privileges of a site admin user. Nice. Nice.
Infection alert.
Hey, it's the parts people. What's up, y'all? Welcome in, Raiders. I hope y'all are having a fantastic stream. Kicking everything off. We are just talking about some hacker news for tonight. Okay, let me get you a shout out real quick. Let's see. That's right. Mr. Pool Shot got the raid coming in. Hang on. Usually whenever we get a new virus coming in, we got to send out the Cookie Monster. There we go. Cookie Monster is the antivirus. I have to type cookie. Funny story. That was actually an original virus that I think it hit Linux systems way back in the day, where the Cookie Monster would come up and you couldn't use your terminal unless you typed in cookie. That's all it did. I think that's all it did. The main thing I remember was you couldn't actually like access your command terminal until you typed the word cookie. Oh, let's see. So we're talking about an exploit that happened in a Cisco product. What was this? In Cisco Secure Workload. Their REST API had a flaw. Basically, it's an authentication. If it's a 10, it's an authenticated bypass or authentication bypass directly to admin. That's what it is. Yeah, good enough for me too, Ken. I was like, I like it. I like a good cookie. Let's see. Let me go back to this part. So a successful exploit could allow an attacker to read sensitive information and make configuration changes across tenant boundaries with the privileges of a site admin user. Okay, so I guess this is probably a multi-tenant environment that's happening in here. So the shortcoming impacts Cisco's secure workload cluster software on SaaS and on-prem deployments, regardless of device configuration. Cisco said there are no workarounds to address the vulnerability. The issue was addressed in a couple of version updates. So the networking equipment major said it found the vulnerability during internal security testing and there was no evidence of it being exploited in the wild. Well, that's a plus. This disclosure also came a week after Cisco revealed that another maximum severity authentication bypass flaw in the Catalyst SD-WAN controller had been exploited by a threat actor known as UAT8616 to gain unauthorized access to SD-WAN systems. Oh, Cisco. I can't give Cisco too much crap because every one of the network vendors is like taking it on the chin recently. They're all just getting beat down. Let's see. What about this one? This one sounded really cool. The Showboat Linux malware hits Middle East telecoms with a SOCKS 5 proxy backdoor. Yes. Yes. Good. I like a good SOCKS 5 proxy. Hey, Bobby, what's up, dude? Hello, this is IT support. I'm here to delete all your cookies. Oh. Sock makes really, really strong bucha. I mean, look at that. It's dark. It's like wine almost. Ooh. That will, that'll curl your leg hairs. It's not so much thick as it is spicy. That's what I'd call it. There was one time I tried to get, who was it? Agent Zero to drink some kombucha, but he'd like get close to it. He was a little guy too. I think he was like a year and a half old at this point. He always wanted to steal my drink. So I'm like, okay, cool. You can steal this one. And he gets the glass and like, he gets up to his nose and he catches the smell of it. And he's like, he looked like somebody had just flicked him in the nose with it. I was like, no, buddy, you don't smell it. You just drink it. Yeah, that'll sober him up real quick. Yeah, you don't need smelling salts. You just whiff a little kombucha onto their nose. All right, let's see what happened with this SOCKS 5 proxy, because that's what I like. I really like. If I could just proxy stuff into a client environment, golden. Cybersecurity researchers have disclosed details of a new Linux malware dubbed Showboat that's been put to use in campaigns targeting telecommunications providers in the Middle East since at least mid-2022. Damn, so it's been active for a minute. Showboat is a modular post-exploitation framework designed for Linux, capable of spawning a remote shell, transferring files, functioning as a SOC 5 proxy, according to Lumen Technologies' Black Lotus Labs. So it's assessed that the malware has been employed by at least one and possibly more threat activity clusters affiliated with China, with correlations identified between command and control nodes and IP addresses geolocated in Chengdu, the capital of the city of Chinese province, Sichuan. Sichuan. I think I said that right. Kombucha is what I like to drink whenever I have been eating too much junk food and I need to like just reboot the system, right? And I did when I was at the board game convention last week. Yeah, it was just like eating restrictions suspended. So yeah, the bucha is definitely warranted. Right. So one such threat actor is Calypso, aka Bronze Medley, aka Red Lamassus, which is known to be active since at least September 2016, targeting state institutions in Brazil, India, Kazakhstan, Russia, Thailand, and Turkey. It was first publicly documented by Positive Technologies in October of 2019. Some of the key tools in its arsenal include PlugX and backdoors like Whitebird and Bye-bye, I guess. The latter of which is part of a broader cluster tracked as ESET under the moniker, I'm not even going to try and say that, Microscene. Okay, I am going to try to say it. So the use of Microscene has been attributed to a closer. God, these names are ridiculous. The use of Microscene has been attributed to a closer known as Six Little Monkeys, which in turn shares tactical overlaps with another Chinese linked group referred to as Webworm. Good God. You know what? I've been reading some William Gibson lately, and all these names are like giving me Gibson flashbacks right now. So this puts Showboat along with the other shared frameworks like PlugX, Shadowpad, and NosyDoor that have been used by multiple Chinese Nexus groups. This resource pooling reinforces the presence of Digital Quartermaster that state-sponsored threat actors from China have relied on to supply them with necessary tooling. So the starting point of the investigation was a binary that was uploaded to VirusTotal in May of 2025, with the malware scanning platform classifying it as a sophisticated Linux backdoor with rootkit-like capabilities. Kaspersky is tracking the artifact as Everrat. Black Lotus Labs security researcher Danny Adamitis. I've got to get better at pronouncing these names. Adamitis told the Hacker News that this exact initial access vector used to deliver the malware is currently unknown. However, in the past, Calypso has been observed leveraging ASPX web shells after exploiting a flaw or breaking into default accounts used for remote access. Weak. The advisory also mapped the earlier China-linked group to weaponize a 2021 CVE, a security vulnerability in Microsoft Exchange servers that serves as a first step in the exploit chain for proxy login. Yeah, I remember that one. That was a fun one. So the malware is designed to conduct a C2 server, gather information, and transmit the information back to the server in a PNG field of an encrypted base64 string. It's also equipped to upload and download files from the host machine and conceal its presence and manage C2 servers. So to hide itself on the host machine, Showboat retrieves a code snippet hosted on Pastebin. The paste was created in January of 2022. The malware can also scan for devices and connect to them via SOC 5 proxy. So this suggests that the primary purpose of Showboat is to establish a foothold on compromised systems. And this would allow the attacker to interact with the machines that are not exposed publicly on the internet and only accessible via the LAN. Well, yeah, basically. So what they're doing here, by the way, if anybody's wondering, like, if you want to pick up what I'm throwing down. So what they're doing is, let's say you've got your attacker machine here, right? And you're connected over the internet over to some server that you've compromised, right? So there's the target server. But then this server back behind it has a whole LAN of other stuff that's connected to it. So after this server makes its callback over to you, you basically got a two-way communication here. You could start up a SOCKS forwarder over here on your C2 server that then forwards this traffic. So this would be like your C2 callback here. Callback. And then this would be your SOCKS proxy going in the other direction right here. So then once you have this enabled, then you can just use that to ride this connection here over to the rest of the network and proxy your way into it. So very simple stuff, but also very powerful. So further infrastructure analysis also uncovered two victims, an Afghanistan-based internet service provider and another unknown entity located in Azerbaijan. A secondary C2 cluster using a similar X509 certificate as the original C2 was uncovered two possible compromises in the US and one in Ukraine. So while some threat actors are increasingly using stealthy native system tools to evade detection, others still employ persistent malware implants. So the presence of such threats should be taken as an early warning sign. Yeah, of course it should. Let's see. Also put to use by Calypso in the campaign targeting the telecom providers in Afghanistan is a fully featured Windows implant codenamed JFM backdoor that's delivered from DLL sideloading. I do like a good sideload. Giggity. So the attack chain involves a batch script that uses to launch a legitimate executable and then loads a rogue DLL. The JFM backdoor supports a wide range of capabilities, including remote shell access, file operations, all the standard C2 stuff. So the targeting of Afghanistan in its telecommunications sector aligns with what we assess to almost certainly be Red Lamasu's wider operational goals and objectives, according to PricewaterhouseCoopers. So then that was interesting just because you don't really see new Linux like malware kits popping up recently these days. A lot of it's kind of like old hat tradecraft. In fact, we were just talking about Webworm, so here we're looking at them now. Let's see. Webworm deploys the Echo Creep and Graphworm backdoors using Discord and the Microsoft Graph API. This one I'm curious about how they're abusing the Graph API here. Let's see. Cybersecurity researcher. I can't talk. I can't. I'm donezo's. Cybersecurity researchers have flagged fresh activity from China-aligned threat actor known as Webworm in 2025, deploying custom backdoors that employ Discord and the Microsoft Graph API for C2, which is pretty cool. I want to see how they're doing this. Let's see. Webworm, which was first publicly documented by Symantec in September 2022, is assessed to be active since at least then, targeting agencies and enterprises spanning a whole bunch of areas. So attacks mounted by the group have leveraged remote access Trojans. Let's see. Well, duh. The threat actor is said to overlap with China Nexus clusters tracked as Fishmonger or Aquatic Panda. These names. Six Little Monkeys and Space Pirates. They're not going to stop if you keep giving them cool names, dude. Like, come on. Instead of Space Pirates, what if you just called them, like Space Turds? Call them something that's not, like, flattering. Six Little Monkeys is best known for deploying Ghost Rat and the microscene targeting entities in Central Asia and a bunch of other places. Let's see. So in recent years, it started moving towards both existing and custom proxy tools, which are more stealthy than full-fledged backdoors. In 2025, Webworm also added two new backdoors to its toolkit: Echo Creep, which uses Discord for command and control communications, and Graphworm, which uses the Microsoft Graph API. I hope they explain how this is actually doing. Hold on. Let me see something real quick. Here we go. Hold on. How are they using this? Here we go. Forget what site was that? Hacker News? Because they leave out so much information here. So in 2025, webworms started abusing Discord and the Microsoft Graph API for C2 channels while analyzing the Echo Creep backdoor. We managed to uncover more than 400 Discord messages. We also found 4 unique channels, each corresponding to a different victim. Echo Creep uses Discord to upload files, send runtime reports, and receive commands. The backdoor's network communication passes through Discord APIs using crafted HTTP requests. Nice. So in the case of GraphWorm, which used the Microsoft Graph API for C2 channels, we discovered that it uses OneDrive endpoints exclusively, specifically to get new jobs and to upload victim information. A separate OneDrive directory is created for each specific victim. Since the instance of the OneDrive employed by GraphWorm is running in the cloud, the backdoor can leverage the Microsoft Graph API endpoint, create upload session, to upload large staged files. Nice. Nice. Let's see, they also had stuff happening with S3 buckets. So during our investigation of a 2025 campaigns, we discovered that webworm started using its custom proxy solution, WormFerp, to retrieve configurations from compromised S3 buckets located in AWS. And so S3 bucket is a public cloud storage solution available in Amazon Web Services. Yeah, we know about that. We know about this. Everyone here is very learned. So basically, S3 is a what's called a storage bucket. It can be used to either do object storage, which is like random chunks of data, or it can be used basically for file storage. Let's call it like that. So what they're doing is they're serving up the C2 from the Amazon cloud. And the reason why attackers do that is because nobody blocks AWS. Nobody blocks Microsoft. People may block GCP because no one freaking uses it anyway. But typically, no one blocks Google either, right? So they're abusing inherent trust in these systems to deliver their payloads from a non-suspicious location, is what they're doing. So go back to the article here, since we switched to the We Live security. So our initial review for the files stored in the bucket revealed several snapshots from virtual machine hosts, one of which contained a current configuration and active state of a machine belonging to a government entity in Italy. Damn. I block AWS. Probably a smart move, Mr. Poolshot. Also, I don't know if I said hey to you. Welcome in. Hope you're having a fantastic Wednesday. Let's see. What else we got going on here? I just block everything. I do zero trust at home. Yep, every request I have to approve. Which means when I set up a new network, it's many, many days of just staring at logs. Let's see. So, yeah, so they found a virtual machine snapshot from a government entity in Italy. And that could mean the operators were able to successfully penetrate the environment responsible for managing the victim's VMs. However, this could as well just have gained access to only a single host where the snapshots were stored. Still cool, though. I mean, that's one of the things I like to do. If I can get to backup servers and I can find like disk images from backup servers, get those suckers down. There was one time we were able to get into a Veeam backup and obtain a backup of a domain controller, which meant it had a copy of the ntds.dit database, and bringing that down, and then boom, we had like just full access to everything. AWS was just getting too annoying, and the Singapore location just pushed it too far. That's probably a really good idea, though. Yeah, like block some of those ones that are like outside the US. I mean, that's kind of what Iran's been doing, except they've been, blocking them kinetically. That was a new threat model they hadn't considered. Let's see. So going back to the article here. So one more thing they were doing here. So these actually were not AWS buckets they stood up. They were using compromised AWS buckets, basically letting the other person fit the bill for it. In October 2025, the actors uploaded another file to the S3 bucket named Sharp Secret Dump. And the tool, as mentioned in its documentation, mimics the activity of the infamous secrets dump.py from Impacket to dump credentials from affected Windows machines. Yeah, pretty much. That's a standard pen testing tool. And then starting around December 25 to January 26, Operators uploaded 20 new files to that service, 2 of which had been exfiltrated from government entities in Spain. The first of these 2 files, which was an XML file, contained the saved configuration of virtual hosts using mremote ng, which is a connection manager right there. Hey, Max, what's up, man? Hello, how do you do, fellow feds? That's right. Let's see. The second file they took was a Microsoft Visio diagram detailing infrastructure behind a domain used for the government entity. Ooh, they data gathering. Let's see. And so while going over Echo Creep's Discord infrastructure, we managed to retrieve Discord's unique identifiers related to users, channels, and guilds. Guilds is what Discord actually on the backend API calls the servers, right? So the BlaiseBits Discord server is technically like the BlaiseBits guild. That's how that works. All those different Discord servers are really just guilds inside of Discord. So unfortunately, with limited access to the bot's token, there were no API calls that could be used to enumerate the information surrounding the owners of the server or the bot itself. However, Discord messages revealed the GitHub repository of some random alphabet soup / WordPress, which acts as a file stager for other tools and malware used by Webworm. So one such tool used to compromise the S3 bucket mentioned above. As a direct fork of the legitimate WordPress repository, it could hide in plain sight. Oh, nice. So they forked WordPress, but then just added some of their malware stuff to it. Nice. That's funny. So even though we were unable to find the entry point for Webworm uses to compromise its victims, we've discovered that the group employs a lot of open source utilities to scrape victim web server files and directories and search for vulnerabilities. We found that after noticing that a victim machine was communicating with a proxy server, we reviewed the IP address and showed that an open directory, which contained the aforementioned open source utilities, oh my, it's always an OPSEC failure, guys, had previously been hosted there on port 80. Nice. Look at all that. Got a like nice little SSH profile, some nuclei templates, a little bit of Vimfo. That's funny. Basically, this is like somebody's home directory being exposed out on the web server. Let's see. So the key directories relevant to our blog post were the nuclei in dir search and the bash history file. Oh wait, did it have the bash? It did have the bash history. Yeah, let's go. Insight into the tradecraft. Let's see. So Webworm operators were able to brute force directories and files within the web servers using dir search and webpath scanner. Let's see. And they also used nuclei, which is basically an open source vuln scanner, to identify any possible vulnerabilities against the specific targets. Yeah, the .config folder also here would be super helpful because anything they had configured under that would give you lots of good information. This is just gold right here. I'm curious what ls.py is. Like, why do you have an ls? Like, I'm thinking like the ls command, right? It's like, did you just implement ls in Python to be different? Let's see. So the results of running dir search. Oh, hang on one sec, guys. Gotta fix something. Why is this broken? This is being dumb. Maybe like a pretty ls? Oh, maybe. Let's see. Where were we? Okay, hold on. Sorry, I lost my place here. So the dir search basically was stored there into that directory, which revealed that the tool had been executed against 56 targets from a variety of countries such as Spain, Hungary, Belgium, Nigeria, a whole bunch. The nuclei directory, we found legal hacker scripts named like _sh1, proof of concept exploit for an old 2017 CVE. Damn. That was against Squirrel Mail. That's weird. Let's see. Looking at the bash history. That's not a directory, bro. Not to nitpick. I'm just like, hey, bash history is a folder. Or a file. It's not a directory. We discovered that a similarly named script had been executed against another webmail target in Serbia. And this led to the assumption that the group obtained the Serbian victim's credentials and may have been using this vulnerability as part of their initial access. What else we got going on here? Let's see. So in this blog post, we're going to take a look at additional details around Webworm's arsenal. So first, it's 2 custom backdoors. Echo Creep, which Echo Creep is the one that's talking through Discord, and GraphWorm, which I think is the one using the Microsoft Graph API. And they also had a custom proxy solution that they deployed in the 2025 campaigns. WormFerp, Chainworm, Smux Proxy, and WormSocket. That's funny. So it has a whole bunch of like standard C2 commands. What else we got going on here? How long is this document? It is long. They got a lot of good details in here, but I think I'm about over it. Because while I do like reading about this, a lot of times it's just them repackaging a lot of like regular stuff in here. Let me see what this is. So this is the workflow of like what they've kind of got going on. Builder, demo. Hold on, what were they doing here? So Bad Creep supports file upload and download and command execution via command.exe. Oh, that's hella script kiddie. So it says, while GraphWorm is more advanced backdoor and can spawn a new command.exe session, execute a newly created process, upload and download files to send to Microsoft OneDrive, and stop its own execution after receiving signal from the operators. So they went through all the trouble of making like a Microsoft OneDrive C2 channel where they can talk to it and send commands over it. But then you're still doing like fork and run command.exe execution. How'd this not get caught sooner? That's jank. So, anything else coming up here? Hold on, I want to read what this bad DLL's variant is here. There we go. So the disclosure, let's see. Yeah, let's come back here. We've not recently observed any indication that there are overlaps with the group known as Space Pirates. From the recent activity we reported on, we do not believe the other groups were involved. Disclosure comes as Cisco Talos shed light on a bad IIS variant. I think that's bad IIS. Yeah. I think it was like bad DLLs at first when I first read it. No, I think it's bad IIS. Likely sold or shared amongst most Chinese cybercrime groups. Again, under the malware as a service model, which I hate. Let's see. So the same malware author who operates under the alias Iwaxa has also made available. Let's see. Hey, Leland, thanks for coming online. Thanks for joining the channel, buddy. Appreciate it. Welcome in. I should say thanks for coming online. That's the correct term. Oh, let's see. So basically, it's like one person selling this tool and other people buying it. Man, have things gotten so bad you can't even own your malware anymore? You gotta rent your malware. You will not own the malware. You will own no malware and you will be happy. Sad, sad turn of events. When even malware is a live service project. Yes. You will own no malware and you will eat the bugs. Actually, technically, Mythos is going to eat the bugs. Let's see. So what is this one? Trend Micro warns of Apex 1 0 day exploited in the wild. So what's Apex 1? Trend Micro has addressed an Apex 1 0 day vulnerability exploited in attacks targeting Windows systems. Apex 1 is Trend Micro's enterprise-grade endpoint security platform that protects corporate networks from a wide range of security threats, including malware, ransomware, fileless attacks, and web-based threats. Now, I gotta be real with you. I don't think I've ever come across Apex 1 on any penetration test or red team that I've done. Let's see. So this was tracked as a new CVE. It's a directory traversal vulnerability in Apex One's on-prem server, allowed local attackers with admin privileges to inject malicious code. Ooh. So basically breaking out of the application and getting into the underlying server. Let's see. So this could allow a pre-authenticated local attacker to modify a key table on the server to inject malicious code to deploy an agent on affected installations. So the vulnerability is only exploitable in the on-prem version of Apex 1, and potential attacker must have access to the server and already obtained administrative credentials on that server. However, despite the restrictive requirements for successful exploitation, the company warned that Trend AI has observed at least one attempt to exploit this vulnerability in the wild. Yesterday, the U.S. Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Agency added it to their list of known exploitations. Let's see. So these types of vulnerabilities are frequent attack vectors for malicious cyber actors to pose significant risk for federal enterprise. Are they really using Trend Micro? I don't know. Maybe they are. Apply mitigations per the rules. Do the basics. I love how they're like, hey, always do like install patches. Keep your password strong. Do this. It's like basically they could just compress that down to all this. Like, just do the bare freaking minimum. That's what they should just say. Hey, by the way, there's a new exploit. Do the bare freaking minimum. Let's see. Also, Trend Micro released security updates to address several local privilege escalation vulnerabilities in Apex 1's endpoint protection. The endpoint protection agent that attackers can exploit if they have permissions to execute low privilege code, which is basically means they've got landed on the box. Let's see. Threat actors have frequently targeted flaws in Trend Micro over the last year, several years, often in zero-day attacks. Trend Micro warned of an actively exploited Apex 1 RCE bug. This was in August of 2025 and addressed two other ones. I haven't heard about anything from Trend Micro in a long time, so this has gone kind of a little bit of a blast from the past. I didn't know they were really still doing much, let alone making enterprise stuff. Let's see. Now, what about this one? Because I've always liked, this is, you can't see it because it's behind, hang on, there you go. Now you can see it. I've always loved the BYOVD, bring your own vulnerable driver exploits. So this is making vulnerable drivers exploitable without the hardware. Hold on, how long is this thing? Good God, this is a long article. I don't know if I want to cover this one. I mean, I would really like to, but good God, this is a long article. This is like, I didn't even know Hacker News published deep dives like this. I don't usually ever read it. It's just, they just happened to be flooded this time because I let Harvey put the news list together since I was at the board game convention and wasn't watching Twitter very much, which is usually where I gather all the news stories. Oh yeah, we're not. We can't do this one. This is too damn long. Let me see if I got anything else in here. Actually, yeah, 7-Eleven got breached. 7-Eleven data breach exposes personal information for 185,000 people. Now, are those employees, or they have something else here? Shiny Hunter's extortion gang stole the personal information of 183,000 people after hacking the systems of convenience store chain giant 7-Eleven in April. Let's see, founded in... Yeah, it was founded in 1927? Holy crap. Oh no, my 7-Eleven points! I know, right? I actually have some fond memories of 7-Eleven because where I used to live in Arlington and where my best buddy used to live in Arlington, that's where I grew up. And we could just walk down the street to 7-Eleven. And so we hit up this 7-Eleven like all the time when it was there. And then it eventually closed and I was sad. I was like, okay, cool. Another small part of my childhood gone. And then I realized I was really freaking old when like I'm driving through the city with my brother while we were visiting. And I'm like, dude, remember when that used to be that? Yeah, remember when that used to be that? And like after the fifth one, I'm like, holy shit, we're old now. Like all these things, we remember them being something different when we were younger. It sneaks up on you. I don't feel old though. I really don't. Except for my neck. Gotta fix my neck. Anyway, so let's see what they're talking about here. Let's see. So 7-Eleven, founded in 1927, which I had no idea. Dude, they're almost a century old, bro. 7-Eleven's going to be 100 years old next year. Damn. Anyway, they operate franchises and license more than 86,000 stores worldwide, 13,000 stores in the US and Canada. Also operates and franchises Speedway, Stripes, Laredo Taco Company, and Raise the Roost Chicken and Biscuits. I've never even heard of that. So the company revealed in the data breach notification letters sent to affected customers that attackers stole the data from an undisclosed number of individuals after gaining access to some 7-Eleven systems in early April. And so the letter said, we recently discovered that on April 8th, 2026, an unauthorized third party gained access to certain 7-Eleven systems used to store franchisee documents. Ooh. So it was like, kind of like, almost like 7-Eleven employees that got busted. Or got popped in this. Bush did 7-Eleven. 7-Eleven was a part-time job. Damn it, Ken. Damn it, Ken. Why you do this to me? That's a TTS I would expect to get from Gumby if he wasn't out. I'm pretty sure he's storm chasing right now. Let's see. So while 7-Eleven has not attributed the attack to a specific hacking group or threat actor, and has not shared further details, Shiny Hunter's extortion gang claimed responsibility for the attack on April 17th. So the cybercriminals claim to have stolen over 600,000 records containing corporate data and personally identifiable information after breaching 7-Eleven's Salesforce environment. And then they then leaked 9.4 gigs of archives for the documents on their dark website after the company refused to pay a ransom to have the stolen data returned. They're like, oh, you're not going to pay us? We're just going to release the data. Would you say they slurpeed up those records? Damn it, Ken. Damn it. For anybody who doesn't know, 7-Eleven has a frozen-ish like slushy drink called a Slurpee. They slurpeed up the records. Oh, Ken. Always set for a good dad joke. So let me go back to the article here. So although a 7-Eleven spokesperson didn't reply when Bleeping Computers reached out to confirm, Shiny Hunters claims and shared the number of affected individuals. Have I Been Pwned analyzed the data leak by the cybercrime group and said the breach exposed the data of about 185,000 people, including names, birthdays, email addresses, phone numbers, and physical addresses. That's funny. 7-Eleven Denmark also confirmed it was the victim of a ransomware attack in August 2022, after the attackers encrypted some of its systems and forced the chain to shut down 175 stores. Rude? I'd be really pissed if I couldn't go get a Slurpee because some ransomware guy is like, I'm going to weaponize math against you. Let's see. So Shiny Hunters has been targeting Salesforce customers for the past year and breached hundreds of companies, claiming they've stolen billions of records in the Salesforce Aura data theft attacks and the Salesforce Drift campaign. Oh, that's funny. Let me see what else I've got up here. I think we already talked about, we talked about Uber's COO saying, hey, we don't know what the hell is happening with our stuff. Hold on. Potion sent some more stuff in there. Let me go see. Let's see, we talked about Kash Patel's merch store getting compromised and serving up ClickFix. The most troubling thing about that was that Kash Patel has a merch store. Do you find the BYOVD is a reliable technique to do Privesk in enterprise environments? I've never actually, I love the idea and the theory of the exploit, but I've never really had a good use case or opportunity to really use it. We've always found some other, like, less intrusive method, Bobby. Hey, Faisy, thanks for coming online. Welcome in. I don't know, Bobby. I like the idea of it. I also have not looked very deeply at what kind of telemetry the BYOVDs do. But in theory, I mean, you're talking about like having very, very deep access because you're loading kernel mode drivers in there. Who the hell gives that kind of information to 7-Eleven in the first place? It looks like they stole the information from the franchisees, right? So I didn't even know 7-Eleven had franchises, but apparently they do, and that's what it sounds like the data is, Ken. It was information about the franchisees and some other internal users, especially since they stole it out of Salesforce. Yeah, BYOVD also almost feels like a last resort for instances where you don't have enough of another path to visit or something to pivot to. Yeah, it kind of does. Let's see, what else we got here? We talked about Megalodon. I'm just double checking the news thread over in Discord real quick. We talked about more mini Shai-Hulud. I think that was just about everything we've got for this. Hold on, did I cover this one? Let me see. Oh, what is this? I don't think we did cover this one. Popular GitHub action tags redirected to imposter commit to steal CI/CD credentials. Ooh. I do love a good CI/CD steal. Threat actors have compromised the popular GitHub action workflow Actions Cool Issues Helper to run malicious code that harvests sensitive credentials and exfiltrates them to an attacker-controlled server. What? So every existing tag in the repository has been moved to point to an imposter commit that does not appear in the action's normal commit history. And this was according to STEP security researcher Varun Sharma. The commit contains malicious code that exfiltrates credentials from the CI/CD pipeline that runs the action. Nice. So it sounds like what was happening here is when you structure these. Hang on, let me bring this back up. Let's see. So for example, like I can show you the ones I just put together today for the Mythic MCP server, which, oh, by the way, guys, this is now open to the public. I just haven't announced it yet. So feel free to check it out, but that is the Mythic MCP server. What the heck is going on? Hold on. Sorry, you're going to get this twice, Twitch. There we go. But yeah, so the Mythic MCP server is up and live. But let me use this as an example here. So if I come over here and we look at the CI YAML, right? Notice how the action here is action checkout, and it's at this commit right here. Another way you could have written this is this could have been at v5 here. However, I purposely wrote this, I purposely had this done this way because of an issue like this, right? Where if they went through and instead of referencing it by tag, I'm referencing it by the SHA commit, because if the tag got compromised, my CI/CD would be compromised as well. So even though this isn't really doing anything super critical, I wanted to make sure it was as robust as possible. The 2026 takeaway, don't install NPM packages and don't use GitHub Actions. Dude, so I just made these GitHub Actions today for the Mythic MCP server. That's how version 1 was released right here. So there's two workflows here that happen. One is anytime code gets pushed to master, the CI goes through and it just does a unit test on it, make sure it passes, make sure everything looks good there. And then also anytime I send a tagged release, it goes through the same steps, but then also it creates the release package here. So granted, I'm the only one with permission to do that, but I still wanted to make it as robust as possible. So like there's no GitHub actions that run like on PR or anything like that. They just, they're only run whenever push is done to master in here. So the code actually has to already be committed. No like suspected code changes or anything. But yeah, so that's what's happening here. It sounds like is that they compromised the tag. So they said, hey, go run actions cool issue helper at v7, whatever. And when they rewrote the tag, they put it over to the malicious code to then run it because people were tagging it or were referencing it by tag instead of by SHA commit. Ah, my nose. Hang on 1 second. My nose is killing me. Hey, Potion, what's up, dude? Did I see Pool Shot's message? I think so. Didn't I? Oh, Pool Shot. Actually, I did not. I need to review a hack. Do you take requests? I mean, you can always ask. I won't promise. But yeah, send it in, man. Everybody who's been watching the stream for a long time will tell you that I have no problem like going on side quests, as I like to call them. Let's see. Sorry for missing a lot of the stream. Was really tired. I got tied up with a few other things. Sure, the stream was awesome. Yeah, dude. Oh, man. Not an issue, dude. I understand that life happens. If anybody should understand that life happens, it's me, man. I totally get it. The tags are just too convenient. I know they are, but... Quick on the mute button there. Didn't want to sneeze in the microphone. They are super convenient, Max, but also... I tried to make this, especially since it's a security tool, I tried to make the CI/CD for this as, like, tough as possible, right? I went to Moulin Rouge. I think I would have rather been watching Blaise poop. These are all, like, spurious lies, right? I don't poop, ever. Well, let's see. By the way, Pool Shot, in case you didn't catch the message earlier, yes, go ahead and send in like whatever you're looking at. The stream is actually about to wrap up. So if you want to check us out on Discord, I will send the Discord link right now. Boop. There we go. So feel free to hop in there. There's other folks talking about it. Bobby's our resident meme connoisseur, always posting stuff. Let's see. Hold on. So I want to go back to this. We were talking about the GitHub action and what happens here. So an imposter commit refers to the deceptive software supply chain tech. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Hold on. Actually, yeah. That's an imposter commit. So an attacker can bypass standard pull request reviews and achieve arbitrary code execution from the basically by compromising that trusted repository. So the imposter commit, per the cybersecurity company, contains code that upon being executed within the GitHub action runner performs downloading bun JavaScript runtime, reads memory from the runner, worker process to runner.worker process to extract credentials, makes an outbound HTTPS call to an attacker-controlled domain, and transmits all that stolen data. So Step Security said 15 tags associated with the GitHub Actions cool repository have also been compromised with the same functionality. GitHub has since disabled access to the repository due to violations in terms of service. Of course. I guess they were dropping Microsoft 0 days. It's currently not known what led Microsoft-owned subsidiaries to that decision. So the exfiltration domain has been observed in the latest waves of many Shai-Hulud campaigns targeting NPM packages, indicating the two clusters of activity could be related. Let's see. Philip Burkhardt, head of threat intelligence at Socket, said the Ant-V NPM compromise is likely linked to the Action Cool hack, citing the overlap in the exfiltration domains. And this points to the same mini Shai-Hulud activity cluster, not a separate NPM-only incident, and we're still being careful about the exact initial access path, but the overlap is strong enough that we're treating them as related. And because every tag now resolves to malicious commits, any workflow that references the action by version pulls the malicious code on its next run. Only workflows pinned to a known good full commit SHA are unaffected. Boom! That's just what I was doing today because I didn't want this kind of shit to happen in my repositories. All right, everyone. Unfortunately, that's where I've got to wrap it up. Let's see who's on InfoSec streams. By the way, if you like this kind of stuff, let me drop a link to it here. Go check out InfoSec streams. There's usually a lot more people on right now. And obviously, like, we're not even on. I don't even know if the go live notification went out because, like, there was way fewer people on the stream at the beginning. It's kind of weird. But it's not foolproof. But come over here during the daytime. Check it out. There's usually lots of folks on middle of the day US time. I wonder what B7's doing. He's not online. InfoSec streams, you failed me. It's all right. It's sometimes the webhook gets messed up. I know the guy who actually runs the site is a mod. Zed and Computer Boot are on. Let's go check them out real quick. Let me see. First off, who's over in Science and Tech right now? Let's go check them out real quick. Oh wait, Shy Hat's on. Let me see what Shy Hat's doing. Shy Hat is not on. But Twitch, you're failing. You're failing me, Twitch. Hang on. Got my hopes up because I thought Shy Hat was on. Let's see. Yeah, we could go right over to Computer Booter. Let's see. Smack Harder or something? No. No. No, is he? Wait. Yeah, he is on. Why is he not showing up in my follow list? Hang on. I gotta find something real quick. Oh, I know why. Hold on. Why is this doing this? Okay, he is showing up there. Okay, perfect. Yeah, I'm going to start that off right now because I love Tyler. He's a great dude. We're definitely going to go right over to him. All right, guys. I got to wrap it up there. We will catch up to you guys Saturday night. We're going to keep working on Dracaris. I think I've got an idea on where we're going to go with it after compromising the Linux server, how we're going to move over to the Windows server, and then finally start working our way towards domain admin. So everyone have a great rest of your week. Continue on to Crushing It mode. Crushing It mode should be in absolute full effect because you had double rest day, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday to get after it. Well, let's see. What else do I got? I think that's it. Yeah, we're going to hack stuff. By the way, do me a favor. When you get over to Tyler's stream, I want you to drop in hack smarter and harder. Because he's always like hack smarter, not harder. No, hack smarter and harder. Crush it. Crush it. And drop a bunch of happy hackers in there. I hope all of y'all have a fantastic rest of your week. Remember, Friday is read-only Crushing It mode, so you can prepare for the full frontal Crushing It mode assault of Monday. And I will catch you all Saturday night. We'll keep working on the Dracaris lab. Hack smarter and harder. I love you. Peace.